Hey, welcome back to the show, the wrestling show. We're keeping it real, goes right. Welcome back to Real Take Wrestle Talk, live here on YouTube and hopefully on Spotify. Hopefully that's sorted out by now. Had some trouble loading that up last week, but it should all be ready to go this week. This show is hosted by the barman, Trevor Sutton. Trevor, what's up, man?
How are you? How's it going?
I'm good. Hella technical difficulties this week. Was on the road. Didn't have time to really deal with all that. But we got it all fixed, all ready to go this week. Trevor, the barman, and yours truly, El Jefe of Real Take Enterprises, Omer. We are live here on YouTube. As I've said before, we've got a wonderful show planned for you. We're going to be going over and previewing AEW Road Rager 2021, all the big matches from that show. Also going to be talking about the big Twitter beef between Thea Trinidad, aka Zelina Vega, and Big Tuna Dave Meltzer. We'll also be joined by Justin Baird, hopefully I said his name right, of the Juggernaut Show to answer your fan questions and take a look back at Bash at the Beach 1996, which was 25 years ago today. All that and much, much more coming up right here at Real Take Wrestle Talk. Before we get to any of that, be sure you hit that like button, subscribe, support the channel for daily videos. Also, be sure to hit that follow button, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. You guys know the drill. Trevor, let's get into the show today. And look, I want to say today we've got a mixed bag of on the show today. It's going to be some fun stuff, some not so fun stuff, and unfortunately we have to start off with some not so fun stuff today. So the official Twitter account for WWE Hall of Famer Terry Funk has confirmed that the pro wrestling legend is currently dealing with many health issues and is living in an assisted living facility. As noted, it was reported earlier that Funk is suffering from dementia and is living in an assisted facility in Amarillo, Texas. The update was first provided by WWE Hall of Famer Don Morocco on his podcast and later confirmed by PW Insider. So, the entire wrestling community, in a very positive way, has been showing support for Terry Funk today. And it's worth to note, Terry Funk is still alive. He's been talking to his friends. It's a situation where, he's on the brink of something terrible happening. But, it is a very sobering thought, Trevor. It's a very sobering revelation about this. And, I just want to get your reaction initially about this news.
Man, it's just sad. It is sad. It's always sad when one of your heroes or one of the people you used to watch growing up is sick or, going through health issues. And it's sad. I love Terry Funk. I remember watching him growing up. Terry was a nutcase. It always has been, but he was a great wrestler. He had great matches in New Japan, great matches everywhere he was. It's sad to know he's his current situation, but he's a fighter. He'll keep fighting. I know he's not giving up without a fight. Definitely.
Oh yeah, totally. And for anyone who wants evidence of that, he spoke with Tommy Dreamer, and Tommy Dreamer recently revealed today about the conversation that he had with Terry Funk, and he said that, quote, quote, "I'm currently sitting in an assisted living place with my thumb up my ass, whistling Dixie, but I don't remember the words." So he's in good spirits. He's obviously making reference and joking about, the reality of him having, dementia. But, he's taking in his stride, which the best way you can take it, honestly, at that point. But I want to kind of switch gears and just, for a second, talk about Terry Funk and his career and what he's meant for wrestling. And a lot of people, when they think about Terry Funk, Trevor, they think about the hardcore legend. They think about ECW. They think about this person who helped legitimize ECW as a brand in the 90s. And while that is true, I think what a lot of people leave out is the reason that someone like Terry Funk was able to legitimize ECW, like this new extreme fringe brand. The reason for that is Terry Funk was an established star in wrestling 20 years before he ever stepped foot in the ECW arena.
Yep.
He won the NWE title in 1975, and he was a champion for what I believe was over a year. I believe it was like 400 something days. So Funk, he was a champion, a world's heavyweight champion, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion in his own right. And I think a lot of people forget about that. A lot of people like to remember Chainsaw Charlie, which hey, it was his idea. But a
Well,
lot of people remember Chainsaw Charlie. A lot of people remember, his matches in ECW, which were all great. But I think one thing we always leave out, or that people tend to leave out, are the matches he had in Japan, the runs that he had in Texas before he became big time. He was obviously in the Hall of Fame, as you can see here. But like Terry Funk was an established star long before he became a hardcore legend. This is evidence of it. Him with the NWA World Title in the '70s. So, I
he
think
had skills, man. He did.
yeah,
He had skills. He was
yeah,
actually a pretty technical guy, and you wouldn't imagine that someone like him to be that technical, but he was actually a pretty technical wrestler. Um, he was, man. Like I said, I remember seeing him even like fight some of the Von Erichs and guys like that and things, and even Dusty Rhodes, guys like that. Like he was a very accomplished wrestler. Like you said, he wouldn't have been able to do the things he did without being so.
yeah,
Um, you mentioned something about dementia earlier because we're talking about this in a story he mentioned. Like my grandmother also had dementia, and I take away some of the funnier parts from the things that was said, and my grandmother said something similar to that Terry said. She goes, I walk in the room. I said, "Are you hungry?" And she goes, "Yeah, I am. I want something to eat, but I got to be honest with you. I have no idea what the hell you are." So it's just the attitude you have to have for something like that, and he has the right mentality for it. The old saying goes, you got to laugh to keep from crying, and that's pretty much what you got to do.
yeah, man. I mean, look, we all fall on hard times sometimes to misquote Dusty Rhodes, right? But it's not so much, I think, about what is wrong with you. It's about how you deal with, and I think people like your grandmother, people like Terry Funk, are probably dealing with it as good as, like I said, anyone can. And like that's props to them, props to, because like who knows, who can imagine what's going through your mind, like when you're told news like that, when the reality hits you, you're in an assisted living facility. But Terry Funk has given so much, cannot emphasize this enough, to the wrestling business. He's literally put his life on the line for decades. There's the meme of him retiring, like 20 times, I believe, in the past. Like literally, he's had like
Yeah.
20 retirement matches. But like there's a reason for that. Terry Funk is the epitome of passion in the wrestling business. Nobody in the wrestling business, you can argue, has more passion for the wrestling business than Terry Funk. This dude, his knees were completely shot. He didn't have any cartilage in his knees in the 90s. Still went out there and wrestled. He last wrestled a match in WWE in 2006. 2006. Truly think about that. And it was a hardcore
Started in
match.
the 70s.
He started in the 60s. Like
60s,
Terry,
actually. Yeah, you're right.
Terry Funk. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but Terry Funk has been around.
You're
People
absolutely
forget.
right,
Right, that's a black and white picture. Terry Funk's been around for a long time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Been
he,
around a
so
long
he's,
time.
yeah. So he is truly a legend. When people say hardcore legend, I think it's accurate, but it takes away from what Terry Funk gave to the wrestling business. If you haven't watched any of his NWA matches, do yourself a favor. Go watch that. If he's on your mind, go watch them. Go watch him in ECW. Go watch something
Yeah.
to something new, to kind of broaden your perspective about Terry Funk, the wrestler, Terry Funk, the entertainer. Because that's the reason, remember, that's the reason Terry Funk did all this. He could wrestle in front of 5 people, and he would feel the same rush as wrestling in front of 5,000 people. That's the type of mentality that Terry Funk has. So, I know I can speak for you, Trevor, when I say, Terry Funk, we love you. We're thinking about you. And, man, dude, big props to you. Good luck to you. Good luck to your family. Your prayers, thoughts are completely with you guys.
Keep raising hell, Terry.
Keep raising hell, Terry. Keep raising hell. So, yeah, again, Terry Funk, man, literally. I know we like to say who's the guy,
Larry
living legend,
Zbyszko.
Larry Zabisco. Everyone calls him a living legend,
Literally.
which he is. But I think today Terry Funk really has can take that moniker because that's truly what he is. And again,
Yeah.
I emphasize, go watch some stuff. Go watch some old Terry Funk stuff. It's on the network. It's on Daily Motion on YouTube. You'll find it.
Check him out.
Check him out. He's great. Also, check out our daily videos. Hit that thumbs up button, guys. Subscribe to the channel so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Trevor, let's segue into something that is a little more positive, and that is Zelina Vega making her in-ring return to WWE. A lot of people did not see this coming. Let's talk about it. Zelina Vega made her surprise return to WWE TV last week on Friday Night SmackDown, marking her return to WWE after being released from the company back in November. And it was reportedly over issues with her Twitch channel. That was when WWE was cracking down on third-party platforms like Twitch and Cameo. So there seemed to be at an impasse there. She was one of the more vocal people against that stance that WWE took. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reported shortly after Vega's return match with Liv Morgan that Vega has been in WWE and has been signed to the internal roster for about a month now. So she's been there. There's been reports that she had returned, but she officially made her return on SmackDown last week. Trevor, how big a surprise was it to see Zelina Vega back in WWE?
I think everyone was just as surprised as I was. I didn't think she would be back. Due to everything that happened, and due to like some of the things she said on Twitter and things like that, I just thought the company was done with her and she was done with them. It's good to see her on TV though. It's amazing to see her on TV. She's very talented. I'm very impressed with her work. She doesn't seem like she had any ring rust at all. Yeah, it was good to see her. Definitely good to see her. I kind of thought she was either gonna hit another promotion, like maybe ROH or just surf the indies for a while. So it's good to see her back on TV.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think that her being back kind of probably indicates something for me that I thought about at least. It was, I think maybe that whole third party thing that came out with WWE of them cracking down on Twitch and Cameo. Either that was a little overblown,
Right.
even though I could totally see them doing something like that, or maybe they came to some resolution about that because there was a lot of outcry from the talent and in the media,
Right.
especially. So I think maybe so. I think that's like one thing to take away from this that I think a lot of people are probably not hitting on. The other thing is I think it's great. Zelina Vega is she's great on promos. We know she has the ability in the ring, even though she hasn't been in the ring, which is my next question, Trevor. What do you think about her being a singles wrestler after, for so long she was Andrade's manager? That was her role. She was his valet. And now she's going back into wrestling, which I'm all for, and I cannot wait to see what she does because she was honestly one of the best in-ring wrestlers in NXT and during her time there, or early time there. So what do you think about that? What's the future, look like for Zelina Vega, the singles competitor?
No, it all depends on how they push her, honestly. Like to me, putting her on SmackDown means at this point, at this current juncture, that they're trying to push her. Like that they might eventually give her a push, because like I feel like if they put her on Raw, that's not much of a push for her. Even though they are putting other wrestlers on, that have been on the main roster back on NXT, that might be a good move for her too. But I honestly just want to see her in the spotlight. Now that she's back, I want to see her do something. You know what I mean? I want to see them use her talent like they should have in the first place. Sometimes when you see even male managers or female managers, once they get into the wrestling, sometimes it doesn't translate well. Like Melina and Eminem, that didn't work too well. Even though she was a decent wrestler, I actually love Melina, and actually she's doing well in other promotions now. But I don't know if she worked that well with the fans. I don't think people really cared for her too much. But yeah, so you have your situations like that. But yeah, I'm happy to see her wrestling, and I think this is gonna be a good work for her.
Yeah. I think you said a lot there that I can agree with. If there's anyone who can make that transition from valet to full-time competitor and be over with the fans, it's someone like Zelina Vega. She's got the charisma, she's got the in-ring ability, she's got the notoriety now from her Twitch and her Twitter. Like, she's one of the
Right.
more vocal people on Twitter, which we'll get to in a segment because there's some drama, some hot goss between her and Big Tuna Dave Meltzer. But just coming from that standpoint, she has the ability to be a huge star for SmackDown, potentially lead the SmackDown women's brand. As we know that there's Bianca Belair in that mix, and look, Zelina Vega just qualified for Money in the Bank. So this could be a big rocket ship to the moon type of situation. Maybe she's the big heel who's going to take the belt off of Bianca one day. And if that's the case, imagine the promos that a heel Zelina Vega with a championship around her waist is going to be cutting on SmackDown. And you combine that with Paul Heyman, with Roman Reigns on the mic. You combine that with I know you don't like him, but with Pat McAfee and his like very expressive nature.
Yeah, like I said, he's growing on me. He is growing on me.
And you combine that with everything else that SmackDown is doing very right, because SmackDown, like I said, best WWE show by a mile. I think NXT, I've been watching it lately, even though we're not watching it tonight. I'm watching it lately. It's getting It was really good there. It's lacking, but SmackDown is first class, doing great things, and pushing Zelina Vega would be another notch on their belt. Yeah, I can't wait to see her.
Oh, me too. I can't wait to see this Money in the Bank and see what she does.
Oh, yeah, man. Let's talk about something else that has to do with Zelina Vega real quickly before we get into the other thing that has to do with Zelina Vega, because there's so much Zelina Vega is. So, Trevor, Zelina Vega is back with WWE, like I said. When she was cut in November, she tweeted out the same day calling for wrestlers to unionize. And that galvanized a lot of people like myself to speak about it even on this very channel. That galvanized a lot of people to really get involved in the conversation. Even presidential candidate Andrew Yang spoke about it, specifically Zelina Vega's comments. So it made a big buzz in the media, made a big buzz amongst wrestling fans. And recently she's come back, and the tweet has apparently been taken down. What do you think about that, and maybe the message it could send to people who want to see wrestlers unionize, who want to see wrestlers actually have some leverage over companies that can just cut them on no trial, or who can just cut them like tomorrow if they wanted to?
Now, see, I don't think this is exactly what she meant, but there's a couple of different things that you can infer from this. You can take it as maybe she got her job back, so maybe she doesn't feel as strongly as she did. You could think it. A lot of people will probably take that as, well, she's kind of wishy-washy on her thoughts. She's not really trying to fight for it. She's not really into it. It was just something she said while she was mad. And I honestly don't know her. Of course, neither one of us know her, but I don't believe that was what she was trying to portray by erasing it. I honestly don't know what she was thinking, but I don't necessarily believe that's what she was trying to portray by taking it down. But it does come off as wrong. It does come off as a little weird. You know what I mean? It comes off. You can look at it in a different light now that she's back and it's all for Twitter. I actually would love to see if she actually talks about it sometime soon. But as someone as an outsider looking in, it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look good. But I'm not going to assume the worst. You know what I mean?
I think that's probably the right take on it. So for me, and I want to be clear, I don't blame Zelina Vega for taking down this tweet.
Exactly.
You're coming in back with the company. You have to make a living. And I understand that, and I empathize with that, and I sympathize with that. And look, she did the right thing for herself by taking down that tweet. You don't want to burn any bridges. I understand that. That's perfectly fine. We all have to make sacrifices. Life isn't perfect. No bad will, nothing against Zelina Vega. But the one thing I will say is what I think this could have been had she not even kept the tweet up, because it's not even just about the tweet.
Yeah,
Had she re-signed and then possibly, maybe internally led the charge on a potential, unionization, or even left the tweet pinned, like I believe she had earlier, that could have sent a very strong message. And again, this is not, I'm not telling her what she should have done. I'm not telling her because I'm not in her shoes, right? Obviously. But what I will say is it could have been a very powerful message, because one thing we do know is that unions are needed. If in any industry unions are needed, it is professional wrestling.
absolutely.
Especially when you get to the big time, when you get to the big level like WWE and even AEW now. Like AEW, I'll be calling on them very soon, honestly, to begin that process of unionization, because there's been a lot of talk in AEW circles that might be the track that they're leading down eventually. And I'm waiting for the financials to kind of see where that is, because they're a new company. You got to give them some leeway. I understand that, but for WWE, I think the idea of unionization, it's well beyond Zelina Vega. It's well beyond one tweet. It's you need the entire locker room. You need solidarity with the entire locker room, and you need people who are unafraid, of getting fired, who are unafraid of losing their jobs, who are unafraid of standing up for the rights of not just the people that are there in the locker room now, but for the people who are going to come after, for the people who came before. Because we look at someone like Terry Funk. The terrible news we found out about Terry Funk this week. The fact that he had no cartilage in his knees for decades. The fact that the dude, his body was failing him for the past 25 years. If someone like Terry Funk had union, had a pension, had health insurance for a lot longer, things could have been very different. You look at someone like Kamala, look at someone like Iron Sheik. All these wrestlers who in their late age have debilitating health problems that are caused by wrestling in many ways. Think about where their lives could be. They wouldn't have to fundraise their money for their surgeries. Jake Snake Roberts literally had to crowdfund his surgeries a few years back, and he got help with DDP, thank God. But there's really not a need for that. And again, this is well beyond Zelina Vega. I want to make that abundantly clear before someone puts words in my mouth. It's well beyond Zelina Vega.
It has nothing to do with
It's
Vega.
very easy for me to say that if I was Zelina Vega, I would go out there and I would have a meeting on the first day to unionize. It's very easy for me to say that, but I'm not in her shoes. And putting myself in her shoes, it would still be a very difficult thing to do. But I just want to kind of shift the conversation over to specifically the importance and for the need of solidarity amongst the locker rooms, the importance of the need to have a movement, have the energy in a locker room geared towards gaining leverage, gaining support for a better working environment, more rights as workers, and finally put to bed this whole independent contractor bullshit that WWE has been doing for the longest time, because they can't have it both ways. WWE cannot have it both ways, where they're an independent contractor, but WWE literally controls every single aspect of their business. Keith Lee and WWE should not be in a war right now for Keith Lee's name in a trademark battle. That shouldn't be happening. So again, I just hope that this conversation about unionization didn't end with that tweet. I just hope it extends farther, but it's going to require, honestly, a lot from the wrestlers. It is going to require a big movement from the wrestlers to do this. And Vince McMahon is a very shrewd businessman. We know this, Trevor. He is someone who does not care about necessarily the wrestlers as a body. He is someone who has fired people like Jesse Ventura in the past, who tried to unionize, who tried to help out the boys. He's criticized people like CM Punk for trying to stand up for the boys and other things. So it's going to be a long fight. And look, as far as like a timeline for unionization, man, it could never happen. It legitimately could never happen in WWE, but I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a nice thing to have, especially like you said, this individual contract stuff. is is awful. Like these people need to need these jobs 9 times out of 10, feed their family, keep clothes on their backs, and to have a union will help them out greatly. Like you mentioned, healthcare and things like that. That'll definitely help out. I am actually kind of shocked since yes, it's entertainment so to speak, but it's also sports. So I am kind of shocked that they don't have something in place before now. But definitely, something needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, even look at Hollywood. The actors have a union, writers have a union. There is no sports have a union. There is no reason that sports entertainment should not have a union, Vince. Just to use his own words against him. So again, for the one wrestler who might eventually hear this one day, think about it. Truly think about it. And again, it honestly, just to put a bow on this, man, it's like it's gonna be hard too because
it is.
It's just like you would need someone big, you would need someone huge signed to WWE to come out and do this. Like John Cena would have to literally come out and support this, and that's the only way this would get any traction. Unless literally half the locker room walks out on strike or something,
right?
There's no way. There's no way. And
then even still, it'll still be a rough way to go.
Yeah, but again, no one ever said it would be easy, and it's not. Look at like what Amazon. We're getting political here, but like look what's happened to Amazon, man. They tried to unionize because like Amazon workers were literally shitting in bags on their shift, and Amazon was able to keep that from happening, and they have been. So we'll see. It's a long fight. Let's move on, Trevor, and talk about something else that has to do with Zelina Vega, but also not just Zelina Vega. Big Tuna Dave Meltzer got caught up in some hot goss with Zelina Vega. Let's take a look at this. So it all started with this tweet from Thea Trinidad, a.k.a. Zelina Vega, in which she said, actual footage of dirt sheet writers trying to think of the next lie to post about me. So wow. That's a little bit of a shot at some of the reports that came out when she was cut about, the reasons that she left WWE and how that all went down. So, and this was made after her return. So, a little bit of a shot there. But one person who took it very, very personally, Trevor, was one Dave Meltzer. Meltzer was on his Wrestling Observer radio show, and he went on to call out Trinidad for these comments about dirt sheet writers specifically. On his show, he said that he took offense to her comments, went on to call them stupid, said that, when you use the word wrestling journalists and don't point out who you're referring to, I have no respect for you. That's a quote from Meltzer right there. And so it got a bit heated. And from Meltzer's perspective, what he specifically, I feel like, didn't like was the fact that she said wrestling journalists, dirt sheet writers, plural, meaning it encompasses Dave Meltzer. People automatically are looking at people like Meltzer, Sean Ross Sapp, and not necessarily someone else. There's a lot of dirt sheet writers who don't have the credibility of a Meltzer, of a Sean Ross Sapp. So there's a lot out there. I think Meltzer, he in a way he is kind of right to be a little upset. But after Zelina Vega, Thea Trinidad, heard about these comments, she took to Twitter with some comments of her own. She says, "Hey Dave, instead of name calling, I'll ask you to please point out where I said all dirt sheet writers in that tweet, or would that make your aggressive and nonsensical argument invalid? You can keep your respect, as I lost mine for you when you started tearing down and degrading women in this business for no reason. I wasn't referring to you, but if you think the shoe fits, that's on you."
Wow.
lot to break down in that tweet. And there's more, but there's a lot to break down in that tweet. So she obviously took offense to the way that Meltzer came across in his comments, because he did come across pretty aggressive. And the specific line that she says here about tearing down, degrading women in the business, that's a shot at Meltzer for comments that he made about Charlotte Flair and her appearance. So, and again, hey, I'm not touching that one, because Meltzer, I think, was wrong for that, because he went way over the line in those comments. But
Definitely.
speaking of Meltzer comments, he commented again. Meltzer can't stay off of Twitter. He quote retweeted Thea Trinidad saying, "You should point out who lied and the specifics of the lie rather than a blanket statement and group people in one category. I explained that in detail how horrible it would be to say something bad about wrestlers that only applied to a small percentage of them."
Well, Dave.
Ooh, that's a lot. So, Trevor, just so here's the thing. What is this? Is this a case of like misunderstanding and miscommunication, or is this something more? Is there something more here that, we might not be privy to?
So here's the thing. I can't necessarily say it's a miscommunication when he did kind of degrade women. So that's something he actually said. So maybe not verbatim, but the comments he made about Charlotte Flair aren't okay. They're not. So maybe that was necessary. But like, I don't know, man. Like, I mean, he has made comments about Zelina Vega and things like that. I mean, it could be a misunderstanding. It could be just one journalist speaking their mind and speaking it to a point where no one really needs to hear that opinion, but he wants to put it out anyway. And Zelina caught wind of it and said her piece. I mean, things sometimes, and I'm putting up here, sometimes things said by journalists and media are mistaken. They're not. Sometimes it's taken out of context, and people take offense. Now, other times they're taken directly in context, and people should take offense. But in this particular situation, I say maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it's a little bit of a misunderstanding and a lot of what we haven't read or don't know about.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. It's a little bit of both. I think there is a lot of miscommunication, but I also think that if you look at it on the surface, right, I understand why Meltzer is upset. I actually do. Because Dave Meltzer is someone who gets a lot of flack from wrestlers, from podcasters like Eric Bischoff and the guy Bruce Pritchard from Something to Wrestle With. Bruce Pritchard literally came out with a shirt that said "Fuck Dave Meltzer" and sold it. So he gets a lot of flack, and a lot of it is unnecessary, if you ask me, because Dave Meltzer is literally doing what anyone in any industry does. He's reporting on what's going on in the wrestling business, just like how people report on sports, just like how people report on actors. It's an industry. You're going to have someone report on it. It's a niche. Meltzer likes to do it. And you know what? For a very long time, he was very good at it, and he still is pretty good at it. But that aside, I think his comments here are very out of line. Like, here's the thing. While I empathize with the fact that, maybe this just set him off, he kind of saw this and he thought it was a shot at him. While I get, maybe this was like the straw that broke the camel's back for him, the way he came after Thea Trinidad, the way he articulated his argument was unfair. It was unfair because, she obviously didn't name him by name. It was unfair because he just comes across as overreacting to the situation, quite frankly. Because if you look at the tweet, this was a very, her initial tweet was very, very, tame. This was not something to make a huge deal about. It's not like it was just a tweet. I don't think it was something to write home about, something to be mad about. But, he took it up a notch, and then she took it up another notch. And look, as much as I appreciate Dave Meltzer, the work he's done, and what he means to the wrestling business, I can't really defend a lot of what he's done here because it just seems like he's escalated this. Yep. And while I empathize with him being frustrated probably by being called out every single week, by being trashed on Twitter all the time, he overreacted here. There's really no other way to put it. He shouldn't have went after her specifically like the way he did. If he wanted to make a point about, this and other things, that would have been different. But coming after Thea Trinidad was completely, I think, out of line the way he did it. And it's miscommunication. I genuinely believe part of it is miscommunication. I think he read into it way more than she did. I think he just read into that tweet way more than she and honestly everybody else did. You don't see Sean Ross Sapp, who also gets called out a lot, not as much as Meltzer, but a lot. You don't see Sean Ross Sapp doing things like that when, they or Trinidad or other people tweet about them. It was unfair on Meltzer's part, and I hope like eventually he understands that and they can move on, but I don't know. I think this was pretty bad. I think this was actually pretty bad. Like it really tore. Like it's weird though. There were a lot of people defending Meltzer, and again, while I empathize with defending Meltzer, like as far as the amount he gets trashed on for unnecessary stuff, this is just you can't do it.
No, this is unacceptable. You can't do it, especially on that platform. Like there's just. But like you said, she said it's nothing she really said. Like she didn't make a direct comment to him. Like he's the one that got butter and took it personal. Like in the person of his stature, you can't do that. You get the person with like David Meltzer, who has his name, has his credibility. You can't do that because right now it makes you look like an idiot. It really does.
Childish though. All of this, yeah. like all of this is childish. Like I just want to be clear.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
All of this is childish. Yeah. Let's go to the chat real quick because since the edits, I wonder if T. Higgins might have changed his name. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. Since the edit says I'm here, LOL. I definitely wasn't playing WWE 2K. So it means this person was definitely was. Since the edit also says in the chat, Meltzer do be pressed. Oh, Meltzer do be pressed, man. His shows are pretty. He be pressed. Meltzer forgot the world doesn't revolve around him. That's also I think a fair comment because she didn't call him out by name. He read into it way too much, and it is T. Higgins. So T. Higgins is now since the edits. I'm still gonna call you T. Higgins because that's how I know you by. But what's up, T? Love to see you. Thank you for the support, brother. Let's move on, Trev, to our next topic for today. And that, and honestly, this is, I know I said we were going to be in and out as far as seriousness goes. This is a very serious issue right here that we're going to talk about next. And it's unfortunate. Yeah. I don't, it's not going to be a lot of joking going on in this segment. It's going to be very serious. So, Jimmy Uso, real name Jonathan Fatu, was booked in the early hours of July 6th on a misdemeanor DUI charge, while further documents by TMZ Sports show that the WWE superstar did also receive a citation for running a red light and for speeding. Uso was pulled over by police on Monday evening in Pensacola, Florida, when he ran a red light and was driving 50 miles per hour in a 35 zone. Officers then said that Uso was swaying around very awkwardly, exited the vehicle, and they gave him a blood alcohol content test where he reportedly had a blood alcohol level of 0.205, well beyond the legal limit. This marks the third DUI charge for Fatu in the past few years. WWE management are apparently extremely disappointed and, quote, legitimately pissed off over Jimmy Uso's DUI arrest, according to a report from WrestleVotes. And they said, quote, I've spoken to two sources this morning on the Jimmy Uso news. I can say with certainty that few high-level people in power are extremely disappointed and legitimately pissed off. This many times isn't a mistake or bad luck. It's personal judgment, not good. Trevor, what do you make of this Jimmy Uso news about him being arrested and charged on another DUI? And, where does he go from here?
It's definitely sad. I mean, and honestly, this is something that he could be released for. And in certain times and certain points of your career, once it's happened more than once, you wonder if he should be released. Does he actually have a problem? Does he have should he seek help for it? You know what I mean? It's you have all these questions now because this isn't like the first time. Like even the first time was bad, but like the first time you're like, okay, like he made a mistake, but like you constantly make the same mistake constantly, and it's getting to a point where you're like, do you really care? are you not coherent enough to make a better decision? Obviously not, because he keeps making this wrong decision. So you're wondering if, like, honestly, my worry is that maybe drinking is a problem, and that maybe he needs to see help. Like, I mean, no one said anything about him being a heavy drinker or anything like that, but I mean, having that many DUIs, you kind of get the wonder. And if he does need help, like, please get it. You know what I mean? Like, before anything worse happens.
Yeah, and I think that, the responsible thing to do would be to try to get him help, and it's not even indicative of like, he has specifically a drinking problem. It could very well be a bad judgment problem, because
it could.
Because the best case scenario is that this is a case of just bad judgment on Jimmy Uso's part, and that he might be impulsive or whatever, right? I don't know his situation specifically. All I know is from the reports. 3 DUI arrests in the past few years, and this last one, it coming at now in his career when he's in a big main event spot right now.
Yeah.
It shows you that there is a problem. And what I hope for Jimmy Uso, what I hope for Jonathan Fatu, is that he gets help. And whether that be counseling, whether that be, AA, whatever he needs to get done, I hope he gets that. Because, look, and if it is a case of bad judgment, and if he has gotten help before, look, WWE has been known, especially recently, that a lot more people than we thought are expendable.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're Roman Reigns' cousin. I think that, if it's a thing where Jimmy Uso has, a more of an impulse control problem rather than a drinking problem, don't be surprised if you see him get released, especially considering how mad they are. And look, I actually think I side a little bit more with WWE on this, which, is a miracle, because I almost never side with them on anything. I would be pissed too. I would be disappointed too. This wrestler who you've invested so much time in, who's been so successful for you, keeps making the same mistake over and over and over again. And it's not only detrimental to the company, it's not only detrimental to the other talent that he is working with or he wrestles with or the storylines they've already developed. It's detrimental to Jonathan Fatu. Which is why, again, I'm not judging him. I legitimately wish him the best. I legitimately wish him the best, and he gets help. And I hope that he doesn't face any jail time, because, Trevor, I don't know what the laws are in Florida, but I think 3 DUIs, like anywhere else, like he could face some jail time potentially. Because I know people who have gotten multiple DUIs, in the news, and they usually end up having to face some sort of jail time. But I think it's
very disappointing. 3 or 4. I'm not sure exactly how many the number is, but I know I've had friends that face some jail time, unfortunately, over that. So, yeah, man, it's a scary situation. It definitely is.
Yeah, the best we can say is we hope the best for Jonathan Fatu, not Jimmy Uso, the real person, Jonathan Fatu. We hope the best for you, and just anyone out there who is reeling with any sort of even bad judgment problems, and you're aware of it, get help. Talk to someone. It's nothing to be ashamed about. We've all done it. We've all gotten help for various reasons. Talk to someone.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, Trevor, let's move on now. And again, wishing the best to Jimmy Uso. Let's move on now and talk about Lana. What should we refer to Lana as from now on? The first lady of TNT, or I don't know. I don't know what we should refer to her, but her husband is doing some hilarious religious stuff. I love religious zealot Miro. It is just I am God's champion.
God's favorite champion.
God's favorite champion, Miro. Forget him though. Let's talk about Lana, real name CJ Perry. She did an interview with Talk Is Jericho, that is Chris Jericho's podcast, where she was asked if she had heard from Vince McMahon after her release. She responded that, "I did get a text. I definitely got emotional about it because it was like a goodbye for me, He thanked me for my incredible work ethic and for my relentless desire to be the best that I could be, and for all the contributions I gave to the WWE so that really means a lot. The hardest part for me was the goodbye part. It changed a little bit. People are at least talking to each other. It used to be where you got completely cut off. So she kind of shed light on that, like how WWE has kind of changed a little, probably for the better, that, there is a little bit more of an open dialogue. She also talked about how the work hours sometimes for her would be insane considering the pandemic and everything, because they would be shooting Raw and SmackDown, taping it like 2 weeks out in a row, and there were some times where she had to be there literally for like 16 hours to shoot a 5-minute segment. So like she shed some light on that. She also said that in the future she wants a no-cut contract if she does return to wrestling. So that might be a requirement. So what do you think about this? The reports that, she's moving forward, wants that no-cut contract, in this interview she did with Chris Jericho.
Yeah, man, it's kind of sad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that the atmosphere has changed, but it's kind of sad to hear that that's how it used to be, that they just cut each other off, and like even if you had friends that just don't talk to you, that's sad actually. But it's good to know that they're going toward a better way of doing things. She's another one that we've talked about that it didn't really make any sense why they cut her. But I wish her the best. And it seems like from the tweets and the interviews and things I've seen about her, like she's doing well. She hasn't really said what she's gonna do. But it also makes you think she mentioned how sad it made her with Vince McMahon. I can imagine, because she's worked so hard. She's done so much hard work to get to where she was before she got fired. And like I was actually proud of Lana. Like Lana had made so many strides to actually being a good worker and a good superstar. It's just a shame that she, got cut halfway through.
I agree. And one thing you realize when you're listening to this interview is CJ Perry, aka Lana, real name CJ Perry, she's someone who is actually very passionate about the business, which for the longest time, like you would hear idiots on Twitter say things like, "Oh, she's basically the next Eva Marie. She can't wrestle. She's an okay promo or whatever." Like, first of all, Lana as a talent, as the draw Lana is worth 1,000 Eva Maries, to quote Sami Zayn. So like, let's put that to bed. She's much more talented, I believe, on the mic than Eva Marie. She's honestly probably one of the more talented promos in WWE. Just look at some of the stuff that she did with Rusev when she was managing Rusev, and she was the ravishing Russian Lana. Like, she did amazing work there. I never thought they should have broken her and Rusev up in the storyline. That it really led to the downfall for both of them, I believe. And look, she was dealt with she played the card she was dealt.
Right.
They told her, go out, get better at wrestling. We want to push you a little bit as a wrestler. She did that, and she got good. Was she perfect? No, but she was getting better, and you could see that she was legitimately trying. There's videos of Daniel Bryan working with her. Like Daniel Bryan is someone like who, if you're going to anyone to get help to get better at wrestling, and you go to Daniel Bryan, that shows that you are actually trying to get better and learn, because Daniel Bryan is an amazing teacher, and there's almost nobody who's more passionate about pro wrestling right now than Daniel Bryan. So the fact that she would reach out to him for help, that she has gotten, been working apparently out at the Performance Center like almost every day, it shows you that this is someone who I think is still going to be valuable for any company that gets her. Right. Whether it's she goes to AEW and kind of rekindles that flame with her husband Miro and does a little bit of work there, whether it's going somewhere else like NWA or Ring of Honor or Impact. They live in Nashville, her and Miro. They live in Nashville, so it could be a perfect fit there because that's where they shoot their TV show. So there's a lot, I think, down the line that Lana can do. And as far as a no-cut contract, I think everyone should have a no-cut contract in pro wrestling. I think that's or most people. If you're a full-time wrestler and you're a full-time roster member and you're exclusive, you should probably have a no-cut contract. The company should be willing to put that much investment in you. So I agree with her, but I also agree that everyone else should have it. So I hope she can come to a consensus on somebody in that. But as far as her comments about WWE, to touch on that a little bit, and her comments specifically on the atmosphere, the working atmosphere, she talked about how the reason she had to stay for like 16 hours in one day to shoot a 5-minute segment was because Vince would literally change the script last minute, and he would keep on changing and doing edits. And while they're still there, oh, let's do another edit and reshoot everything. I think she kind of revealed that, especially in the pandemic era, where they're doing a live show and then some recorded shows, that Vince McMahon and probably Kevin Dunn, when they had that opportunity to really go in there and produce a little extra, they had that time to record things and like move things around, maybe reshoot things. They were working their wrestlers to the bone in the middle of this pandemic. And look, they are signed to the company. They're not doing house shows. That is what it is. Does it seem unnecessary though for Lana to be there for 16 hours or whatever, or all day to shoot one segment on a taped show? I don't think that seems I don't think that's a good use of anyone's time, but I digress. I think it did shed a light on that, because we know that Kevin Dunn is someone who likes to control, like, the sound. He is apparently a huge fan, by the way, of the Thunderdome. Kevin Dunn loves the Thunderdome because he gets to control the crowd noise. He gets to control everything. Really produce the show that he's always wanted to produce. He doesn't have to turn down the fan like chants when they say Roman sucks or whatever. He doesn't have to turn that down anymore. But I thought that was an interesting revelation, a little bit, of just how things worked during the pandemic, and how there was a little more, I guess, control from Vince, especially, she mentioned, during the pandemic and rewriting stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, you could tell that they were working hard though. Like, I mean, just imagine, like, you're not working in front of fans anymore. You're, right at the moment you're doing this in an empty house when you're used to having fans around. That can't be easy to perform and pander to no one. The only people you're pandering to are on TV, and you can't see how it's going through. So, you know what I mean? So you don't know if you're actually hitting your mark or missing completely. So it's got to be one of those things that's just really difficult to do. And I give all the talent that was able to do it all the credit in the world.
Agreed. And look, CJ Perry, we wish you the best as well. Cannot wait to see what you do next. So let's see what's next, Trevor. Let's talk about. Actually, if you guys are still watching, be sure to like, share, subscribe. I hope people are still watching. By the way, thank you, T. Higgins. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Hit the live chat for any questions, comments, concerns you might have. Let's move on, Trevor, and talk about the game. Triple H.
The game.
Hold up. We have a guest on. I have to communicate with him real quick.
Oh, take time.
This is amazing TV. Amazing show right here. Me texting on Twitter.
Absolutely. I'm
yeah. All right. So sorry about that. That is like the biggest thing I've learned not to do on YouTube. Do not look at your phone. But it could not be avoided in this situation. I'm sorry. Probably actually should do that on my computer from now on. Lesson learned. Let's talk about Triple H, because Triple H this week came out and defended WWE for their recent budget cuts. So WWE, as you and I have talked about for a long time, has been doing budget cuts since apparently the pandemic began. Triple H, who serves as the Executive Vice President of Global Talent Strategy Development and the COO of WWE, has now commented on these budget cuts, saying that every company across the world is currently looking at ways to cut costs in the aftermath of the coronavirus pandemic. Speaking to the New York Post, he said specifically, quote, coming out of COVID and pandemic and everything else, all companies have to make difficult decisions. We're no different. Quote, it's part of what we do, and it happens on a regular basis. That part's true. All companies have to do it. It's not the most pleasant part of what you do. It is what it is. Trevor, does Triple H have a point here? Or is this just tone deaf considering the realities of WWE and the realities of the finances of WWE right now?
I would say in a normal company during a pandemic, he's not wrong, right? This makes sense. Like, because you see it in a lot of different other industries where, like, they didn't make money over the pandemic, so they had to make budget cuts. Actually, the bar I work at had to make budget cuts. At one point, we only had a few people working at once because we had to make budget cuts. So with that, like, it makes sense because it takes money to pay people. It takes money to keep it open. And if you're not really making much money, you can't keep people and you can't keep it open. So that makes sense. But with WWE having the biggest financial year they've had and since the company has been around, I call bullshit on the whole situation.
I love the build. That was an amazing build. Continue, please, my friend.
I call baloney on the whole situation. Like, I mean, it might be. He might honestly believe that that's part of it. Like, honestly, and he might honestly be trying to feed the public. That's what it is. So people like us and other YouTubers that or podcasters that have something to say about it, we'll stop talking about it. But the thing is, your average wrestling fan is not dumb. We know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, if you read the financial statistics and everything that's happened this year, you know it's one of your biggest financial, come ups. So you're really going to tell me that you're making these budget cuts because you're losing money? Where? Like, I mean, I believe that you're losing ratings with Raw, yeah, and you might have problems with some of your, maybe some sponsors on USA, whatever. But you're gonna sit there and honestly tell us that you make this is what happens. All companies have to do, sir. I have to respectfully call bullshit on this situation.
Look. You were beautiful in your presentation there. That was amazing. I want to make sure I say that. That was amazing. I'm gonna take it to another level.
Oh, I know you're gonna let him have it.
Not only is it bullshit, it shows exactly why Triple H, when he takes over for Vince McMahon eventually, because he's the heir apparent, he's gonna run things no differently, I think, than Vince McMahon as far as WWE the company. WWE the company is still going to be this corporate machine. The wrestling product might be better. I genuinely believe that, but it's still going to be this corporate machine because Triple H, he's towing the company line so much. Like, everyone thinks Triple H is going to be this savior coming in on a white horse and saving the day when Vince McMahon eventually retires or whatever. Everyone thinks that Triple H is going to be this great thing for wrestlers and the wrestling business. And I'm not saying that as a booker, he won't be, but as the chairman, as the boss, as the corporate CEO, COO, whatever he's going to be, he's not going to be much different. He's going to operate very similarly, and these comments specifically show you exactly why. This is very tone deaf. This is the epitome. If you look up the term tone deaf in whatever encyclopedia, whatever dictionary you want, there's a picture of Triple H and a bubble popping out of him saying exactly this right now about WWE. The most profitable year in the history, the 50-plus year history of world wrestling entertainment. And he's justifying this as, in the pandemic, we had to make some budget cuts. Like, cry me a fucking river, try. Right. Cry me a fucking river. They made more money. Look at this. House shows. They completely cut out house shows. They actually saved a lot of money because guess what, Trevor? Before the pandemic, their house shows weren't drawing shit. They were not drawing well in their house shows, so there's no traveling costs. They cut entire departments, hey, look at that. What happens when you cut entire departments, Trevor? You're not paying people. You're not paying extra people. You don't have the infrastructure built up that you needed before because you're not on the road. You're not doing as much live TV. You don't need as many producers. It's a very like broken down like small operation you're running now. what are your operating costs? Virtually nothing compared to what they were before.
Absolutely.
You just had a $1 billion deal with Peacock. You have a hundreds of millions of dollar deal with USA. You have hundreds of millions of dollars coming in from Fox. You have hundreds of millions of dollars coming in from the Saudi government. You have all of these streams of revenue. And on top of that, you got Snickers, the Honey Mustard Mountain Dew pre-show. You got all of this stuff. And you're telling me that WWE is oh my God, we're doing so bad that we need to cut everything. We need
the T-shirts, the DVDs, all video games. Like, come on.
You're telling me that we're really suffering here. Anyone who pays a little attention can see that is bullshit. And the fact that they are able to say this and it can be a legitimate answer legitimately scares me. Right. Whoever he was doing that interview with, I'm surprised they didn't push him on that. Like, this is literally the most profitable year your company has ever had. How can this be an answer to this question, knowing what we know about this company? Oh, on top of all of that, we also got a raise this year, and Triple H didn't mention that. He didn't mention the fact that he got a raise. He didn't mention that Nick Khan came out of nowhere, get paid $13 million last year. Didn't mention that Kevin Dunn's salary went up. Didn't mention that Vince McMahon's salary went up. Didn't mention that Shane McMahon got paid $800,000 just, not including his staff fee, just as a wrestler for 2020. Not mentioning that. It's Triple H, fuck off. I'm sorry. I don't look, I'm sure Paul Levesque is a wonderful human being.
Yeah, and I have no ill will toward the gentleman.
No, for these comments, fuck off.
That's dumb. But I mean, you're gonna tell me that you're making these budget cuts for a reason, whatever, blah blah. So pretty much what you're saying is that you're not going to be able to eat the fresh caviar today, as opposed to the other caviar that's not fresh.
What do you mean fresh caviar? Vince is back there eating the entire ocean. He's got all the money in the world.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You're really telling me this? Cry me a fucking dude. Come on. You literally wake up in the morning and have more money than I ever will. And you're whining and complaining and talking about this is a terrible. We have to do this. A bunch of companies. Our company's not doing this. Blah 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 blah. How about you stay your ass indoors and drive yourself around? How about that? If there's a budget cut, if you need budget cuts, do that. No chauffeurs.
You know what? I would have respected him more if he had just said something a little closer to the truth. There's a little bit of there's a PR way of saying that we're restructuring the company and these are how the cards fell. It's not great, but that's say that. Don't try to legitimize these bullshit budget cuts because they are bullshit and you know it.
Because he knows it's bullshit.
And you know how I know it's bullshit? Some of the superstars that they fired, they rehired almost immediately. Look at someone like Rockstar Spud. What's his name? Drake Maverick.
Oh, they rehired him?
They rehired. Remember, he got cut in 2020. That's right. They had that whole thing that on Twitter he came out with a video, and he got rehired almost immediately. I guess that wasn't so necessary, was it? Oh, we're not doing so well here. Samoa Joe literally back after a month. No, bullshit.
They found money in their back pocket. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was apparently just falling out of Nick Khan's pocket.
Oh yeah. Nick Khan is laughing all the way. Nick Khan is sad all the way to the bank. Oh, we had to lose these wrestlers. Oh my God, can I get that BMW? Thank you. Come on, dude.
BMW, my man's got a solid gold Maserati at this point. Damn.
He has a solid gold. Nah, I'm not gonna say that. Anyway.
It's like Mr. Powers. I like gold.
I mean, I honestly don't like Nick Khan, but I'm not.
On that note, we're going to move on because when we start talking about gold members, I think it's time to move on to our next topic.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But anyway, fuck WWE for that.
That was terrible.
Big fuck you to WWE and big fuck you to Vince McMahon for this. Again, I try to find positive things, man. I try to find positive things.
You try hard.
There's really not. apparently, Vince, to no one's surprise, Vince McMahon hates tag teams. Let's talk about it. The former Tucker from Heavy Machinery, who was released last year, believes that Vince McMahon does not feel that the tag team division can draw. Tucker was most notably released last year after his partner Otis won Money in the Bank. And he said, quote, just based on my thought, to me, I feel like Vince doesn't like the tag team division, doesn't think it can draw money. At least that seems to be the way that they're booked. Even when they're super emotional, storyline, they might get 20 minutes at most. They're never going to get 40 minutes. They're never going on last. So this brings up an interesting point, Trevor, because it's been reported on and off for years that Vince doesn't think tag teams can draw. Vince doesn't like tag teams. Vince gives up on tag teams very easily. FTR have mentioned this most notably in their departure from WWE. And I think this is an important thing for us to touch on. So what do you think about this? Does WWE, specifically Vince McMahon, not care about tag teams?
I actually, the fact you said one of the things I was going to say about FTR. We all know what happened to FTR. Like, I mean, and it goes, and to me, it goes back further than that. Like, it goes back with the Demolition guys, like even with the Legion of Doom. Like, you have all the Brainbusters, Tully and Arn Anderson. Like, you have these guys, these talented teams that you don't push like that. And Tucker brings up a very valid point. Name the last time you saw a tag team closing the show. It's been a long time, a very long time.
Legitimately, like the last one I remember. I'm not even. I don't think we're not even talking about like a tag team matchup of different opponents, like singles opponents put together.
Right.
We're talking
about actual tag teams,
like compete, like who are in the tag team division. I don't think it's happened since like the SmackDown 6 era. Legitimately, I can't remember. If someone knows, let me know.
The only one that I can, and this is probably dated, and this is probably not totally true, but the only one that I remember I actively remember, and it was only because it was so much controversy around it, was the Hart Foundation versus the Rockers, and it was I want to say it was a house show. I think it was a house show. I'm not sure, but it may have been on TV. Won.
Sorry, just to interrupt you. One I do remember is on SmackDown. Remember they had that TLC match on SmackDown, which a lot of people are calling one of the best matches in like SmackDown history, where Benoit and Benoit and someone else won the tag titles in TLC.
Now, were they an actual team though?
Because this was for the tag team titles, and it was a TLC match. The Hardys were in it. This was a big time match. But
I don't remember that one. No, I didn't remember that. So scratch what I was about to say. But yeah, the only one that I remember was that one. Like I said, I do remember it because it was so much controversy. The Rockers versus Hart Foundation, but I didn't remember the one with the. But who was Benoit tagging with at the time? Was it a member of the Radical? Was it the Rascals? The New Radicals?
It wasn't Perry. It might have been Perry Saturn. I don't remember specifically right now. But I mean, just going back to the whole conversation about Vince doesn't think tag teams can draw. Like, look at the way they've treated the tag team titles recently. Like, literally, I'm sorry. Just I will let you finish. I'm sorry.
No. I'm agreeing. This is me agreeing with you, actually.
But literally, you want to know how much WWE cares about the tag team titles? They literally switched the belts. That's like how you know they don't care. They switched the belts. Like when teams got drafted or on SmackDown, they had a segment where the teams just literally switched the belts. I think it was New Day and Cesaro and Sheamus.
It's the Street Profits.
Or the Street Profits, yeah. So they just switched the belts. Raw, they don't care. They don't care. Like, that's why the teams are never going on last. That's why they never get time for great tag team matches. Like, look at a company like AEW. The main event of the show we're going to preview in hopefully a few minutes, Road Rager, is literally a tag team match for the tag team, world tag team titles. And it's a legitimate main event draw because you know why? Because the Young Bucks are over, because Eddie Kingston and Penta are over. No, but I don't think there's really anyone in the WWE tag team division that's legitimately over as a main event draw other than the New Day.
I mean, the Street Profits were over for a little bit,
but not to an extent. For a tag team in WWE, yeah. But like the only are they Street Profits? Are they headlining? Should they headline a pay-per-view?
When they first came from NXT, yes, but they made them into a joke. They do most of their talents. They're having eating contests with the Viking Raiders and like dance contests.
The Street Profits they became a parody of their parody. They became a parody of Private Party. To a point of a team that was basically them. I don't know which one came first, but they became a parody of themselves, which is crazy to me.
They actually kind of reminded me a lot of Crime Time for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, just going back to Vince McMahon and tag teams, it's never happening. As long as Vince McMahon, I think, is going to be running WWE, I don't think you're going to see a lot of good tag team wrestling because he doesn't believe in it. He legitimately
the company's not built around it.
And he doesn't want it to be built around it because he doesn't think they can draw, even though everywhere else it's been proven that if you build the team up, it can happen. You just have to be committed. But WWE doesn't have the attention span for it. They don't have the patience to stick with a tag team without splitting them up in 6 months.
I mean, we just went down. Listen to the names we mentioned in tag team. They had good tag teams, and they didn't work there. And what happened? They went to other companies and became bigger stars.
You know what? We forgot? NXT did have a tag team main event and a great tag team. The Authors of Pain versus Gargano and Ciampa versus FTR at the time for the tag team titles at an NXT pay-per-view. That actually did headline the pay-per-view.
Right.
Got a lot of time, and guess what, Trevor? It was one of the best matches of the year.
It was. Tag team matches can be great. Tag team matches can be amazing, but you have to want them to. You have to put time into developing your teams. You have to not put them together just because it sounds good. Oh, they look spooky. No, you have to make sure it's an actual team. Some of the teams they put together are absolutely fucking stupid. I love your boy Gable, and I love I love them together.
Oh, I don't like Shorty G though. I don't like Shorty G. I like Chad Gable. I don't like Shorty G.
I hate Shorty G. I hate the name Shorty G, but I don't mind the tag team he's in right now. But even though we've talked about him and Kurt Angle's illegitimate son, and that hurt me to say. But their tag team was great. Their tag team was amazing. But again, is that whole thing. They don't develop teams. The company's not built around it. And hell, they let FTR go.
That fucking storyline of all the people to beat Kurt Angle's son.
God.
Was it not obvious? Okay. Never mind. We're not going to touch that right now. We'll do that in an overtime one day on Patreon. By the way, if you want that to happen, patreon.com/Real Take Sports, because we're going to start doing overtimes eventually. Anyway, let's continue with this. Actually, let's take a look at the chat because we have some chats. T. Higgins says, when you have pretty much the highest budget ever and didn't make budget cuts before when you made less money. Yeah, agreed. They're really suffering after canceling WWE 2K21. I think they saved money on that too. Thank you. Oh, and then my boy Liam, the Grado-mania, running wild here. He says Grado isn't in a tag team, so ... Vince, you should like him. And then Liam says something. Do you remember the Vince limo exploding storyline?
Yes, unfortunately.
This week in wrestling history, later this summer, my friend. Oh wait, yes. Did that? Fuck, it already happened.
It happened already. Yeah, it happened already.
We'll touch on that at some point, though. I promise you. That is
we got some stuff to talk about, though.
Oh, that is just that. Oh, so much there. Juggernaut 097, by the way, who's going to be joining us later on. I'm sorry, by the way, we are running later than I told you, but we'll get to you eventually, Juggernaut. Speaking of tag teams, they just had a top 50 tag teams on Peacock. Oh, by the way, did you hear about this list that WWE came out with? We might. I'm gonna scrap the next segment and just talk about this list, but we don't need to talk about WWE's lawsuits. We'll talk about that. I'll talk about that in a different video. But
Fine, let's get to it then.
did you see this list that WWE came out with of greatest tag teams of all time?
Yeah.
This was some bullshit. It was like the best tag teams.
I forgot who was number one. It was shitty though.
It was New Day. They had New Day number one, and you know who wasn't on this list of greatest tag teams in WWE history? Demolition. How is Demolition not on the? It's just rewriting history. WWE rewriting history for no reason. How am I supposed to be a fan of that? Anyway. I can't even spend any more time complaining about WWE. I will have an aneurysm live on this show. Like it is not pretty. I'm trying to be nice too. This is my nice face for WWE.
Terrible.
Anyway, Trevor, let's get to our AEW section before Juggernaut gets mad at me. Let's get to it. AEW Road Rage. I'm going to do that again. AEW Road Rager will be live Wednesday, June 7th on TNT. This is AEW's big show where they're going to be returning to live audience in front of fans outside of Jacksonville. It's going to be live from Miami, Florida. They've got a huge show with, guess who? A tag team main eventing the show. It's going to be action-packed. You're going to see Jake Hager and the Inner Circle in action against members of the Pinnacle. Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall in a strap match. MJF and Jericho having a face-to-face parlay. And also, we're also going to have the debut of Andrade El Idolo in AEW. A lot to talk about here. Trevor, give me your initial thoughts on this card and this event that AEW is doing.
It's loaded. It's very loaded card, which at this point is pretty much the MO. It's great to see him back on the road. It's great to see their first show this star-studded. I can't wait for it. And hard as hell making this something you can actually see without paying for it. You know what I mean? That's so smart.
Oh yeah,
marketing genius, honestly.
Oh, dude, and AEW's they're gonna be on a tear of special shows. At the week after, next week they're gonna have Fyter Fest, and then Fyter Fest Part 2 the week after, and then they're gonna.
So Fyter Fest is coming up after this.
Literally the week,
wow.
one week from today, and then you got Fyter Fest Part 2 the next week, and then you got Fight for the Fallen, and then they got AEW Homecoming, and then like very shortly after that they're gonna do Rampage's debut. AEW is gonna in the next few weeks is gonna have a lot of big main event level shows. I think they're gonna have the live crowds. It's gonna make up for the lack of crowds and excitement during the pandemic. I can't wait to see it. Let's talk about this card6 First, let's talk about Jake Hager, Santana and Ortiz versus FTR and Wardlow. A little bit of a six-man tag team match rather. What do you think about this match, and what do you think might happen?
I think it's, you know what, I love how they're continuing the feud between the two. I also like how Conan is on their side too. I love that. It was good to see him on TV after so long. But yeah, man, I think it's gonna be an amazing match. The Pinnacle and Inner Circle have great matches. Had some great matches so far. A few botches here and there, but they work well together. Glad to see it. I think it's gonna be a good one.
I think so too. I think what I'm excited to see is kind of like the fallout between what happened with the FTR and Conan and Tully Blanchard. Yeah. That whole segment, I thought that was a money segment. By the way, Conan and Tully Blanchard cutting promos in 2021 better than like half of WWE. Most of WWE. Who
thought we'd see it though? Who thought we'd see something like
and it was great. Conan was amazing in that promo, by the way. Big shout out to Conan. Conan is money. Just give him a mic. Give him a podcast. Give him something. He's money on the mic. Great build for this match as well. For my prediction, I think they're going to put over FTR and Wardlow. Kind of keep building these heels, and they're gonna probably cheat to win, but it's gonna be a fun match. Like there's so many great like matchups within this match that I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Cool. Let's move on and talk about this mixed tag team match: Orange Cassidy versus Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander versus the Blade and the Bunny. So last week Chris Statlander took on the Bunny, and after the match, the Blade actually took some brass knucks and knocked out Orange Cassidy cold. And so this has led to this match. I think you're going to see a lot of fire out of Orange Cassidy when he gets his hands on the blade here. What are your thoughts on this match?
Another good match. And guess what? Have you noticed most of this card is tag team matches? So I mean, yeah, I think it's gonna be another good one. Again, Butcher, Orange Cassidy, is this a Blade, right? Blade and Orange Cassidy. Together are money. I've seen them wrestle before. Great match, great chemistry. Both are great athletes, and it's great to see Statlander back. I love the Bunny too. The women's division is so stacked. I love it. It's amazing.
Huge ups to Chris Statlander and the Bunny for that match they had last week. On Saturday Night Dynamite. That was great. I remember I was marking out to it live right here on the channel. If you want to go back and watch that. But it was an amazing matchup. I thought that they have great chemistry. And Chris Statlander, look, I said it before. I'll say it again. If she didn't get injured last year, she would have been the women's world champion by now.
Yeah, I think that's what they were trying to push her to.
And that's where she's going to go eventually. And I like the fact that she's teamed up with Orange Cassidy. These are like two main eventers, and the Blade and Bunny are going to benefit from being with them. At the end of the day, I'm rooting for Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander, and I think they're going to win. I think they're going to send the fans home happy with this one.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to win, but who knows? Who knows?
Yep. Let's keep it going. Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall in a strap match. This is going to be the culmination, I guess, of their feud that's been going on for the past few months now. The Factory and the American, what is it? The Nightmare Factory, rather.
Nightmare Factory.
Yep. So this is their, I guess, the big culmination in their feud. Worth to note, QT Marshall has already lost to Cody Rhodes once at Blood and Guts. So it's going to be interesting to see when this strap match. QT Marshall laid out the challenge. We're probably going to see some members of the Factory and the Nightmare Factory be involved in this match in some way. But I like the
Nightmare Family, by the way.
Nightmare Family, rather. Sorry, thank you for correcting me. But yeah, I think this is going to be good. I like the strap match. It reminds me of old 1970s, 1980s, Southern wrestling. The strap matches back then were great. So go look those up. But and if there's anyone who's going to have a great strap match, you would think it would be Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall. They're very old school individuals. What do you think about this match?
Again, I agree with what you said. A great old school feel. I don't believe I've actually seen a strap match in a very long time, actually. I was trying to think about that earlier when I found out this match was happening. I don't believe I've seen one in a while. But it's good to see them bring back old school tropes. And I believe you have the best people to actually do it. I think it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be entertaining. They seem to have good chemistry as well. So it could be a good match. I think QT wins this one, actually.
Yeah. I'm actually rooting for QT because Cody's getting a bit of that Triple H vibe. And look, I'm not trying to get heat on Cody, but I'm kind of like, I want to see Cody taking down a notch. I like Cody, but I want to see him taking down a notch. Although when he's in front of the live fans and those fans go wild in Miami, I might just be like, yeah, fuck that, Cody. I don't know. I don't know. Okay.
Who knows?
I'm a very emotional human being. Let's talk about this next match. Andrade El Idolo making his AEW debut against Matt Sydal. We've seen Andrade interrupt Matt Sydal in his entrance, his matches. This has led to this matchup between these two. Matt Sydal is one of the best high flyers in the world. Andrade is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Vicky Guerrero is one of the most heat magnet managers in the entire business.
Into the ring, automatically heat.
And this is, you put all this together, sugar, spice, and everything nice. This is a recipe for a fun match. The excitement of Andrade's debut. Trevor, what are you looking forward to in this match?
I'm looking forward to Andrade shining, and honestly, who else to put him over, than Matt Sydal? Like, I honestly think I think they're gonna put him over, Andrade over. I think Sydal's gonna put him over. I think you're gonna see a lot of high flying from Sydal, and don't get me wrong, Andrade can do it if he wants to too. So yeah, I think you're gonna see a lot of high risk. I think you're gonna see a lot of technique. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Andrade wins.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's a no-brainer. Andrade wins, right? But I also think that if there's any match for AEW to pull out all the stops for, to just let them have like a 20-minute long just belter of a match and let Andrade do everything in his arsenal and showcase it. I think you do it here because Andrade really didn't have that opportunity when he was on the main roster in WWE. He did it while he was on NXT. He had a great match, I believe, with Johnny Gargano, but he was never able to do it on the main roster. I think this is on a national stage uninterrupted. Like there's no NBA playoff game tomorrow night or on Wednesday night. There is a lot of there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this, and if you want to take advantage of this here, AEW. You put Andrade over, but you do it in one hell of a match, much like they did with Jungle Boy and Kenny Omega. Andrade wins, but I can't wait to see this match.
Oh, it's gonna be fun, a lot of fun.
We like to have fun on Friday nights, Michael. Last but certainly not least, the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, will be taking on the team of Eddie Kingston and Penta in a street fight for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Penta and Eddie Kingston won the Eliminator match to receive this championship match, and they're going on last. This is going to be a street fight, and Eddie Kingston in a street fight. It's going to be entertaining. Trevor, this is going to be great, right?
This is going to be a great match. It is. Again, I hate that he makes me like him, but I'm becoming a fan of Eddie Kingston more and more. But from the work I see him with on AEW, and I love him and Penta together. I do. I absolutely love them together. You know what? I'm gonna say something that you might find a little crazy.
Oh, go for it.
I think Eddie and Penta win.
Oh, you think they're gonna take the belts off of Matt and Nick Jackson now?
Explain
yourself.
But see, that's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Like, you want to keep heat on Matt and Nick Jackson, so you don't really want to take the belts off them. But the way they set it up, if you think of old wrestling tropes, making them win an eliminator, putting them in this scenario, they win. But it's not 1994. It's not something that you can really tell anymore, and people are loving heel Bucks. But something, I don't know. I think it could happen. I'm not gonna say it will. I think it could happen.
You gotta do a prediction here now. I'm putting you on the spot. Do a prediction.
Fuck it. I'll say yes. Fuck it. I'll say yes. I'll say the Bucks lose it, even though my gut says I'm wrong. But you have me on live YouTube saying that I believe my prediction is going to be wrong, but I'm gonna go with this one. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, shades of El Jefe over here from WrestleMania 37 saying Daniel Bryan's gonna win, but knowing full well he wasn't. But yeah, no, I'm going with a mutton chop Bucks. Like this is it's gonna be a fun fight, street fight. And look, if Eddie Kingston and Penta win, I'll mark out. It'll be great. I'm excited. Excited for all outcomes. Who would have thought that in an AEW event?
I know, right? This is gonna be great. This is gonna be so fun.
Yep. Be sure to check that out Wednesday night. But for those of you who are watching the preview, it's gonna be tonight on TNT at 8 p.m. Because the preview is gonna go. I'm just gonna air it tomorrow, so people who watch the clip version, they'll see it the same day. So that'll make sense to anyone who's not watching this right now.
No one else.
By the way, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's talk very quickly now about this. I thought this was very interesting, Trevor. Before we move on, let's talk about this. Shaq wants to wrestle Paul White, a.k.a. The Big Show. The big match between Shaq and Paul White has been rumored for years now, with the duo reportedly very close to doing a match in WWE, but at the time, there were injury concerns, contract concerns with Shaq. That never ended up happening. Shaq told PopCulture.com this week that, quote, "I hear Paul White is still trash talking, so I'm going to work out really hard this summer, and maybe we can do something really, really soon. He went on to say there shouldn't be any problems for us getting together now. Last time there was a lot of bureaucracy and red tape. Now there's no red tape. So, look, we saw Shaq make his AEW in-ring debut in a match against Cody Rhodes, in a tag team match against Cody Rhodes. He took a great bump there. A lot of people thought he did much better than expected. What do you think about this matchup in 2021 of Shaq and Paul White?
I remember hearing of the rumors for this match years ago. I think everyone does. And I thought it would have been funny, interesting, entertaining to see then. And you know what? Now that Paul White is probably in some of the best health and in physical condition he's been in years, and Shaq is just Shaq, I think it might be entertaining to see, honestly. I think it might be very entertaining to see two big behemoths go at it like that. Is it past its prime? It could be, but it might be a lot of fun to see too. So who knows?
I think this is going to be great. Look, if anyone's asking, like obviously the peak time for this match to happen would have been anywhere between 2010 to 2017, right? Like that window of time probably would have been the best time for this to happen. It didn't, and we can't control that. But look, Shaq is still a huge star. He's got that TNT, that TBS, that Time Warner umbrella. He's under that umbrella with the NBA on TNT. Paul White now is in AEW. The Shaq has shown that even in his age, he can go, he can wrestle. Look at that. That's Shaq right there. He can still go. If he works out hard, he might not have to wear a tank top. A Big Show, we know what he can do. This is going to be I'm going to put money on this. In 2021, Paul White versus Shaq, if it happens, is going to be a money match, regardless. You know why?
It's still going to be entertaining.
You know why, though? Because Shaq's clout that he's going to bring is going to be the same. People are going to be like, oh, Shaq's wrestling?
It actually might be even more.
And then they're going to be like, oh, wait, who's he wrestling? Oh, Paul White, the Big Show? He's still wrestling? And they're going to check this out. And then when they see what Paul White can still do, because like you said, he's in amazing shape. When they find out what Shaq can do, he's out here taking table bumps and whatnot, it's going to draw people in. So if you want to do it at All Out and have a big draw for that, you want to do it at Full Gear. Have a big draw for that. It'll work. So I'm excited for it. I thought it was interesting, though, the way Shaq kind of put it. He's like, there used to be bureaucratic red tape, and it was kind of like a little bit of a shot at WWE, saying like maybe WWE was like hesitant to have this happen and not letting it happen. What do you think about that?
I think he's right to a degree, though. I mean, I guess it's one of those things that you wonder why it was there, but I'm pretty sure it was. I mean, for instance, Shaq is a huge basketball star, and he was still playing ball at the time, wasn't he?
No, not in 2016.
Oh, no,
Shaq retired.
This is what happened. Okay.
Shaq retired it was 2012.
The first time I remember hearing about it was, I want to say it was a little earlier than that. That's why, but yeah. So, I mean, Shaq was still a hot commodity, and I guess at the time he hadn't really had any wrestling training, so I guess they didn't really want him to get hurt. So that could have been part of it, but I don't know. I mean, now things are different. We know Shaq has a little skill. Again, Big Show is in great health, so it's probably better that it happens somewhere like now where you can get through all the bureaucratic BS and red tape. But again, still excited for it whenever it happens.
It's going to draw money. Do it, Tony Khan. Listen to me once again. Your favorite inspiration for everything. Steal all my ideas anyway. Yeah, just do it, Tony. Just do it. I know you're listening. Just do it, and then I'll take credit for it on this podcast, like I always do. What he actually does steal all my ideas. It's like no bullshit. He steals all of my good ideas. Like doesn't take the bad ones. Doesn't take the bad ones, but he takes all the good ones.
What is that? Is that brown people ESP?
I don't know, man. I don't know. We got that telepathy going on. Yeah, that one. So Trevor, here's what we're gonna do because we are running. Because I don't want to keep Juggernaut waiting too long. I think what we'll do is after we go off the air, we'll record maybe the 2 segments that we didn't do.
Okay.
The AEW segments, and then we'll release those out. So, sorry that we won't get to those, but you will see those out in the week. later. Let's get to this last one, and then we'll go to our quick break to bring Juggernaut in, and then we'll get to some of the latter part of our show.
You got it.
So, Impact Wrestling, Trevor. This was interesting to me. Oh, sorry. Didn't do the right graphic for that. Who cares? Impact Wrestling apparently drew its lowest rating in the Access TV era, and damn, is that scary, Trevor.
Yeah, it is.
The July 1st edition of Impact Wrestling drew a record low rating of 69,000 viewers.
Shit.
This beat out the previous record low of 78,000 from September 2020. The show's main event was Team Callis versus Team Dreamer, a match that featured Kenny Omega, the Good Brothers versus Tommy Dreamer, Sami Callihan, and Moose. So, great main event. Axis claims the low viewership was caused by issues of the TV Guide listing. Apparently, people still look at TV Guide because some TV Guide had the Impact show written as something else. So that was a bit of a lame excuse if you ask me. What do you think about this low rating? What does this mean for Impact? Should they be worried? And how does this reflect on Kenny Omega, who for them has been a big draw but wasn't able to do it this week?
Yeah, I mean that's something that you should be concerned about, especially since more people have been watching because of Kenny Omega. But I believe in the heart of it is pretty much like hockey playoffs are going on, basketball playoffs are going on. I mean, that could be a big part of it. But we act like TNA has had a great draw for the past couple of years anyway. I mean, anyone who is a fan of wrestling, period, is amazed that Impact still exists. I mean, let's just be real. Let's just be honest. It's great that Kenny has been able to help save it, but does it scare me? Should they be worried? Yeah, they should be worried. They should have been worried for 20 years now. But
it's a constant state of anxiety for Impact Wrestling.
Exactly. Every time the show goes on, it's kind of one of those things they should be worried about. But honestly, I do believe it's part of the fact that the playoffs have been on, and the hockey playoffs have been amazing, and so have the basketball playoffs. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that explains it way more than the bullshit TV Guide thing that Access TV. I don't know why they didn't just say it was like the NBA. Like, no one wants to watch TNA compared to the NBA. It's fine. Like say that. It's true.
The TV Guide fucked us over.
What is that? Was it 1995? Like the TV Guide fucked us. No, the NBA playoffs fucked us over. The fact that no one wants to watch TNA compared to the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs, that's what fucked you over. Just say it. Also, 69,000. Nice. That's literally like more people showed up to WrestleMania 2 years ago than watched TNA on one night. Look, I'm just saying. I know we give TNA some flack for their past, but they're still kicking. And I promise you, this 69,000 nice viewers is not going to hurt them. It might even help them. They might lose this TV contract with Access TV and pick up a TV contract with like Paramount TV or something. They're going to end up, this company is going to be alive for years to come. I will say this. Am I afraid that Kenny Omega might not be the draw that he should be for TNA? No, I'm not. You bitch, I thought I was going to say something else. No, it doesn't affect it at all. Kenny Omega is still a draw. The NBA playoffs right now are amazing because guess what? The teams that everybody thought were not going to be in it still are still in it, and the teams that everybody thought were going to be in it, like the Clippers and the Lakers and the Nets, are gone, long gone. So,
and the same thing can be said with the NHL. Like you have a repeat team coming up, and
exactly. So there's no need really to concern for TNA. Impact will be just fine, and as Juggernaut just mentioned in the chat, people watch Impact on Twitch as well. It could be DVR as well.
Fine.
Let's
just be honest. Impact Wrestling are the Twinkies of wrestling. They're gonna be around. They're gonna be around long before we're all gone. Like long
No,
after we're all
don't give
done.
them Twinkies. The NWA are the Twinkies of professional wrestling. Impact is
True.
like the off-brand green beans in a can of pro
Yes,
wrestling.
that lasts forever. That you open
Them Jones don't go away. They don't go away.
Just still there. Yeah,
It's still there. But speaking of going away, we are doing that very quickly. I want to make it clear. We will be right back. We're about to bring in our guest, Juggernaut 097. I'll see if I said that right. We'll figure that out in a quick break. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. And Juggernaut, if you're still watching, come on in.
get it.
And we are back.
There we
Thank
are.
you for everyone who is still tuned in. Sorry for the wait. We were having some technical difficulties. Got that figured out. I take full blame for that. It was mostly my fault. But we are back here with Juggernaut 097. Am I saying that right? Like,
yes, yeah, you're saying that correctly. Yep.
all right,
Exactly.
Juggernaut 097. Justin Baird. Is that
Baird? Yeah.
Justin,
Yeah, have you ever played the video game Gears of War?
Yeah.
No. Oh, he has. He's a nerd.
Oh yeah. You know they have that character. They have that character named Baird on there. Yeah. So,
Oh yeah, got you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so Justin is joining us from the Juggernaut Show. You can follow him at the True JSB on Twitter. You can also check out the Juggernaut. They do a lot of retro reviews. They do a lot of current day reviews of current like WWE product and AEW stuff as well. You can check them out at youtube.com/Juggernaut097. So yeah, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, why don't you tell us just very quickly about like a little bit about like yourself and your channel?
Yeah, so I mainly talk about wrestling on my channel. Like, I started up my channel like, oh man, it was probably about 6 years ago, maybe. And I've just been talking about wrestling ever since. Well, first off, I had a DVD collection, and I originally, based my channel about DVDs and stuff. And then I got like, you know what, let me start doing this podcast, because podcasting started becoming like really popular and stuff. And like everybody started doing it. And I got like, you know what, why not? I just started a podcast and stuff. And also, I also talk about football on my channel. Big Chiefs fan right here.
Okay.
Chiefs Kingdom, baby.
Oh dear. I'm a Ravens fan. I don't like that.
Chiefs Kingdom, baby.
Y'all don't like me anyway. I'm a Cowboys fan, so it's cool.
Everybody hates you. So
yeah, everybody hates the Cowboys. So yeah, I just love talking about sports and stuff, and especially wrestling. That's my main thing I talk about.
Well. Yeah, well, that's a great thing, man, because we are about to talk about some wrestling. Let's get into it, guys. So, Juggernaut, this is a segment we call This Week in Wrestling History, where we go over a huge event in wrestling history. And this week in wrestling history, Bash at the Beach. Oh, I should have added the graphic. See, I'm out of my routine, Trevor. This is what happens when I'm out of my routine. It is my fault, man. It's late. I've had a long day.
It's all your fault.
It wasn't my fault. Big shout out to Gene Snitsky, by the way. Whatever you're doing, I hope you're happy and not kicking babies. All right,
You might be happy kicking babies.
No, he seemed very happy kicking babies. Let's talk about it though. This week in wrestling history, Bash at the Beach, 1996. The landscape of wrestling at Bash at the Beach 1996 was very different. Wow, I managed to mess. I keep messing up. Today.
Okay.
Trevor.
Deep breath.
Deep breath, baby. One more time. This is what happens on a live show. You just get get demolished after doing 2 hours of it. Let's keep it going though. So Bash at the Beach 1996. Guys, this was a historic pay-per-view event that happened 25 years ago today. Let's talk. Whatever. Bash at the Beach 1996. Bash at the Beach 1996 was a historic pay-per-view event that happened 25 years ago today. Guys, this is one of the biggest pay-per-view events in wrestling history. This marked the turn of Hulk Hogan to a heel. This marked the start of the NWO. This marked the beginning, the real beginning, many say, of the Monday Night Wars. Think about where the landscape of wrestling was at this point. You had WCW just coming off and starting Nitro. You had WWE really falling in a rut as far as house show attendance goes, and you also had the rise of ECW somewhat, but it was a weird point in time for wrestling. We were used to seeing very white meat baby faces. The product was really cut and dry. There were good guys and bad guys, and there really wasn't any nuance. Enter Scott Hall and Kevin Nash into WCW. They jump ship, begin a storyline where they are an invading force coming in to take over WCW. And when they came in, they attacked WCW officials, wrestlers, destroyed sets, and made it known that at Bash at the Beach 1996, they would be introducing a third man, a partner who would help them in their quest and their takeover of World Championship Wrestling. This third man would also be their tag team partner in a 6-way tag team match at the aforementioned Bash at the Beach pay-per-view event. At the event, Scott Hall made his way to the ring, as did Kevin Nash, but the third man did not. Was it a ruse? Were they mistaken? Did the third man have a change of heart? All of these questions immediately popped up into the minds of wrestling fans everywhere, leaving fans frustrated, but also intrigued about what could happen. As the match wound down, the Outsiders began to beat down Macho Man Randy Savage in the ring, as the camera cut to perennial good guy Hulk Hogan, who once again was on his way to the ring to save the day. Hogan gets into the ring, the Outsiders leave the ring, Hogan commands the ring in a moment that will live in wrestling lore forever. He took a look at the camera, delivers one smirk, and then gives a leg drop to Macho Man Randy Savage. Hulk Hogan, who for years was Mr. Eat Your Vitamins, Say Your Prayers, had become what he had fought against for so long. Hulk Hogan had become what we thought he hated. Hulk Hogan was the third man. He then went on to cut a promo claiming that he was sick and tired of the fans and that the power in WCW and in the wrestling world was shifting and that the New World Order, although at the time he said New World Organization, brother, was on the horizon. This moment was not only historic because it marked the end of one of the greatest face runs in wrestling history, but also marked the beginning of the NWO, which lit the dynamite that would launch the Monday Night Wars and professional wrestling into the mainstream in the late 90s. And guys, this cannot be understated. Bash at the Beach 1996 is one of the most important moments in wrestling history because, like I said, everything that happens now, it doesn't happen without this event. Who knows if any of us are fans without Bash at the Beach happening. But, Juggernaut, I'll start with you. When you first saw this, when you first maybe heard about this event, what was your reaction to it, and what does it mean?
I'm like really young and stuff, so I really wasn't around to watch this show live and stuff. Like, because I was born in 98, so I was born at like the tail end of like kind of towards the Attitude Era and stuff.
Right.
But so I watched this show like right when the WWE Network like first came out, like so back in like 2014. And of course, I seen clips of Hulk Hogan doing the leg drop and stuff. But I heard some other people say, who actually watched the show back then. They said that, they were wondering who was this person gonna be? Like people were wondering, was it gonna be Lex Luger? Because he got taken out in this match, and he got stretchered off backstage.
Right.
And people go like, oh, maybe he might do like a run, and then he might be that third guy. Or people were thinking it might be Macho Man. He might be that person. But no, like seeing Hulk Hogan come out there, like, and hearing that pop, everybody is so excited when he first comes out. And it's crazy to see him do a heel turn, because like if he was still in WWF, I don't think he would have ever turned heel. Like he would have still been doing that, eat your vitamins and say your prayers, brother. He would have still been doing all that. I don't think a heel turn would have ever happened. And this really, if you hear the firework just go off outside my house there, yeah, crazy. But yeah, it was just crazy for wrestling. Like I tell you what, like if this never happened, I probably, wouldn't be a wrestling fan, because like with everything going into the Attitude Era and stuff, like this really kicked off the Attitude Era, in my opinion, right here. Like
it definitely did.
And this ignited WWF, go like to get their ass in the gear. Go like, okay, yeah, we need to start stepping up our shows and stuff. Like we need to quit being like all this cartoon type of stuff that's going on right now. Like with the golden days of wrestling, and actually become more like that. Have more of that edge to them. Mm-hmm. So I think this helped out, wrestling in a whole. Like it just helped out wrestling so much. And then, of course, you had that, back and forth, people watching WCW, people watching, Monday Night Raw. It's awesome here.
Exactly. Trevor, you were actually a fan, right, of wrestling during this time, and like you kind of heard about it, or at least, or saw it or heard about it. So, as a fan of wrestling in 1996, hearing about this, watching it happen, what did you think?
So in 1996, wrestling was a bit different, and I'm sure you guys already know that. The year prior, Nitro had just kicked off. Hulk Hogan was at the height of his career. He had Pasta Mania, brother. He was that typical babyface heel who was babyface who was a complete annoying. He was not. He was the invincible Hogan. Like you couldn't knock him down. He wasn't like giving anybody any fan service or anything. He wasn't selling a damn thing. Like he was just, popping up. That's what people thought about in Hogan. But in that 96 area, you started to see different things happen. Started to see different wrestlers do different things that they hadn't done before. You saw different wrestlers get pushes. Alex Wright got a couple pushes. Alex Wright, if you guys don't know,
Das Wunderkind, Alex Wright. Big shout out to Alex Wright.
Love Alex Wright. I love Alex Wright. And he was a jobber for a very long time. But then in '96, when things started to shift a little bit, you saw different changes in him, different changes in other wrestlers they used. Even on Raw, you saw some things change, but Raw didn't kick it into gear, like you said, Justin, until things started to happen with this invasion. And so it was so interesting. My mom, who hadn't watched wrestling in years, and she was a huge Hulk Hogan fan back in the day, and she was watching this with me and my brother. We paid the pay-per-view and watching it, and like me, just like you, Justin, we were like, hey, maybe it's Luger, maybe Luger is the third guy, maybe that's it. And then like you saw Hulk Hogan come out, and my brother doesn't watch the show, but if he did, he'd hear me say that he was right about this, and he can't hear that. So, so when Hogan came out, my mom said, "Yeah, get him, Hogan." She was all excited. She said, "My man Terry." She even knew his real name. She said, "Get him, Terry." And Chris looked at her and said, "Don't get your hopes up." And like he called it. He called it completely when he walked in the ring. I don't think anyone else really saw it like that. I mean, I'm sure there were other people.
Bobby Heenan. Whose side is he on?
Whose side is he on? Yep. And my brother was like, "Don't get your hopes up." As soon as he walked in the ring, he goes, "I told you so." And then the leg drop happened. And like, as a kid, and because in '96, I was still a kid. I was 11, and so I was like, "Wow, this is crazy!" Like Hulk Hogan. Eat your vitamins. Like I had a Wrestle Pal of Hulk Hogan because I didn't have the Ultimate Warrior. So
bet you still regret. You would regret that either way.
Yeah, either way, I regret either one. I wanted Big Boss Man, but anyway. But yeah, like it was one of those things where you're like, wow, this is crazy that this happened, and then DX, and then everything else that happened after that. It was just one of those things. Like it was just a downward. Well, actually, wasn't upward. It was a downward spiral, but it was upward. It was a good thing, It happened. If it was like Omar said, if it wasn't for that, wrestling wouldn't be the way it is. You wouldn't have hardcore titles. You wouldn't have the faction battles that you had. Like you wouldn't have a lot of wrestlers wouldn't be wrestling now because of that. It was one of those things. As a kid watching wrestling grow up, you're like partially heartbroken, but at the same time, you're like, oh my god, this is awesome. Like it was. It was amazing. It was amazing to see. It really was.
And I like that you said it was kind of like an uphill kind of like spiral for wrestling from then on, because it really was. I don't want to understate this. In my opinion, I'm someone who like I'm a nerd, right? Like I've read everything, seen like matches from back in like the 1930s. I'm like the biggest wrestling nerd I know. But going back and like looking at wrestling history, to me, in the grand scheme of things in professional wrestling, there's only a few things that are actually as important to the popularity and the interest of growing wrestling as this event. And it's like very few things, and like they're really obscure things like Trevor, remember once we talked about 1925 Wayne Munn beat Ed Strangler Lewis for the world title, and like that was like the unbeatable Ed Strangler Lewis, like he lost, and like that means a lot, and you know, and he was this unbeatable monster that no one ever thought would lose, whether it's Bruno Sammartino, the Undertaker less so in his streak because wrestling was it didn't really affect his popularity, but you know, this is like the CM Punk pipe bomb on steroids as far as what it means for the growth of wrestling afterwards and a trajectory, because this is what led to wrestling being at its most popular and most profitable in history. And it's weird because when you look back and watch it, guys, and I'm sure you guys have at least watched it a few times.
Yeah.
It wasn't even executed that well. Like
no,
there was a lot that could have gone. Like you had Bobby Heenan saying, "Oh, whose side is he on?" Basically ruining it.
Especially telling everybody what was going on.
Yeah, and then you had Hogan cutting his promo, completely botching the name of this new faction, the New World Organization, brother. But there were also things that I thought were little like notches that actually worked. Like the little smirk Hogan gave. Yeah. That was like. You watch that back, guys. That was so brilliant because it was just like
yeah. He actually had a smirk on the way to the ring too. Like if you pay attention, like walking to the ring, you're like,
it was different. It felt different. It felt different, didn't it, guys? It was.
Yeah, he really felt a lot different. Like he felt like more of that edginess with him. You know, he felt more like that. You know, that heel turn was coming here and stuff. Like he felt very cocky, which I love that.
Although you can argue that the Hogan has always been cocky like that.
Yeah.
Look, Justin. I don't know if you know. I think Hulk Hogan as a face was a bigger heel than Hulk Hogan in the NWI. In real life, man, dude, no one out heels Hulk Hogan in real life. Like that's just the truth.
I mean, like, that's what I was gonna say. Like they argue this is one of the biggest heel turns in history, and it is. But
you can argue he never turned heel.
Let's just be honest. Like the man used to rake eyes and stomp on feet. He cheated all the time. And how are you a face and you cheat that goddamn much?
And he brought that golden shovel also. You know, he brought that. Can't forget about that golden shovel here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, who does it better, Triple H or Hogan?
Hogan by far.
Hogan by far.
Yeah. Hogan by far. Like Triple H, I feel like the Triple H thing is kind of overblown because like you look at Triple H, like he hasn't really buried anyone by his. He's tried to bury people, but he's really not been successful. Like Booker T is probably the biggest one, right? Like that's like one big one everyone points to. But Hogan legitimately ruins like everything. Every single one of Macho's title reigns in WCW and WWE, every single one, Hogan ruined the night he won. Like the first night in WrestleMania, was it WrestleMania 4 when Macho won? Hogan was there. In the ring, posing, brother.
When the Warrior got over, Warrior won the belt. He shot right the fuck back up and took all the fucking attention off him.
And then he takes the belt and he's like, "Oh, brother, I lost, brother."
Yeah,
brother, like.
I mean, let's be honest. He is the only man that's almost single-handedly ruined pasta for everyone.
and you guys remember
he had a restaurant called Pasta Mania.
He took credit for the Gary Coleman grill. You remember that?
Oh shit, he sure did.
Oh, George Foreman grill, Gary Coleman grill, Drake and Josh was in my mind.
I was like Gary Coleman.
Gary Coleman, bro.
It must have been a little grill.
It's way too young for you, Boomer. But no, going back to just to put a bow on Bash at the Beach, guys. You know, we touched on like what it means in wrestling history, what it means in wrestling lore. When you think of Bash at the Beach 1996, when you think of Hulk Hogan's heel turn, what's like the one thing that really pops into your mind? Justin, I'll start with you.
Oh, the one thing that pops into my mind is Jim, the fans is throwing stuff at the ring there. That's really like, I mean, we've seen that with like when did ECW when they did do that show where everybody threw steel chairs into the ring and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Threw trash.
97. Yeah, that was when Bubba. But Bubba Ray is amazing. Amazing
Yeah.
bag.
Yeah, so that's kind of like this is like the first like big show where you see where everybody like kind of throwing stuff at the ring, and like people were just pissed off that Hogan turned heel because like I said, like you never thought that Hogan would turn heel here. You thought it would be a babyface forever.
Yeah.
But I like how edgy WCW was. You're like, hey, let's take chances here.
Yeah,
let's take a chance.
Yeah.
I mean,
Trevor?
that was one of those things, and just to piggyback off what you said, like I remember like watching them throw those bottles, and some of them were, and a lot of them weren't plastic; they were glass.
Yeah,
like, they were like you could hear him hit the ring, like clink off the ring and hit the wrestler. Like there was one point where one hit Nash, he kind of looked like as to say, what the fuck? Like why is this hitting me? Like, but no, like I mean that. A
fan entered the ring. Remember
Yeah.
after
He sure
a
did.
fan went up,
I was
and
gonna
then
get to that.
Scott Hall like destroyed him, like kicked the
Beat the
lights out of
shit
this
out
poor
of
dude.
Like it was one of it was the biggest one of the biggest heel turns we've seen, and like it literally broke fans' hearts. Like literally, there were fans. I know a guy that he was that literally he said after Hogan turned heel, he stopped Russian wrestling. He stopped. He completely stopped Russian wrestling. Like I know if they pay into the fans, a lot of people were crying, kids were upset.
Yeah, kids
like,
were crying and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was big. It was a big thing. Like I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
wrestling is stage, wrestling's fake, whatever. But it was a big thing. That was like people cried, people were upset, people stopped watching wrestling. Like yeah, man, that was a lot.
I'm surprised there wasn't like a big riot that assumed after like a whole
Me
bunch
too.
of people just jumped the ring and stuff. Like,
Well,
I mean,
people
I
tried.
would have been, people drew, yeah.
It was
Yeah,
like
crazy.
Trevor, you and I talked about this before. And Justin, you'll agree with me on this. I think wrestling is at its best when it feels real.
Yeah.
That is like when,
Yes.
like because a lot of people, even in '96, like people knew that the business was pretty much a work. There was like a little bit of suspension of disbelief. Like there was more suspension of disbelief, honestly, than there is now. But it was like the dirt sheet floor around, and the hardcore fans knew what was going on. But when Hogan turned heel, that all went out the window. For like that moment in time, this was real. And those are the real turning points, I think, in the history of wrestling. When you legitimately look at, when you get the crowd to pop, when you get the crowd to like mark out at what's happening or react in a way that's beyond just like enjoying the performance of what's going on, that's when wrestling is at its finest, because you got him in the palm of your hands. That's what Stone Cold always says. When you got him in the palm of your hands, that's when you can play around with them, and then that's when the business is good, because the fans are more intrigued and care more about what they're seeing. So this was
and also I want to say something here. Like there really hasn't been like as of recent here, there hasn't been anything to go like, oh yeah, like feels like so real and stuff. Like ever since probably, I don't know, maybe since like 2001 or so, like this is like you're like really suspensing the moment, like you're really suspending your disbelief and stuff. We really have, okay, maybe 2011 when CM Punk did his whole pipe bomb, maybe that, but ever since then we haven't had much of that. Yep. I mean, maybe with the whole Kenny Omega stuff going like, I'm going to Impact and stuff, like that kind of threw me for a loop there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, but even like the Kenny Omega thing, that was kind of like you heard rumblings of like the whole belt collector gimmick that was coming. So I mean, like even that was, but I think you're right. Like we haven't. It doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen often, and I also think it obviously it's not good for wrestling that it doesn't happen too often. But I think it's also like makes those moments even more special, right? Yeah. It makes like those moments like it makes like that be a reason for wrestling to increase in popularity, right? Because you're like, oh shit, I haven't seen this in a long time. Like there's, like you mentioned 2001, I would say like when Stone Cold turned heel on McMahon, that was probably like another moment that people were like, what the fuck, like you could say like even like the Daniel Bryan storyline and him winning at Mania,
that
wasn't even like a moment that felt real, but But it kind of was. It was a very feel good moment that people were legitimately excited to see.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, because the fans were upset. He wasn't getting pushed the right way.
Trust me, I was one of those fans. That's Camp, dude. That's Trevor. I was like gung ho. Daniel Bryan, tunnel vision. Daniel Bryan was winning the belt off of Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 37. You could not convince me otherwise. Like, no, it was like this was like I don't care what logic says.
If you're talking about feel good moments, though, I guess Edge coming back to Royal Rumble the first year was a good one too.
Excuse you. The real return of that Royal Rumble was Montel Vontavious Porter, MVP.
You know what? I don't think you can run this show anymore. I think it's time.
Yeah, you're probably right. Guys, just to put a last notch in this segment, greatest heel turn ever? Question mark.
So you know what? There's only two I can think of, honestly.
Ooh.
It's only two I can think of, and this is one of them. And now the second one, you have to understand what time period it was, and you also have to understand how much of a face he was. When Shawn Michaels kicked Marty Jannetty through the glass. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, Justin, but there was you do know Shawn Michaels was a member of a team called the Rockers, right?
Yeah. I'm a big Shawn Michaels fan. That's my favorite. Cool. That's my favorite wrestler of all time.
We can be definitely friends.
The man has a wrestling podcast. You don't think that he knows what?
You don't think I know who the Rockers
condescending
are?
No, the reason I asked is because he said he was young. That's all the reason I asked.
I mean, I am a young fan, but like I do my research. I watch the old stuff.
That's like you saying like, oh yeah, like it's like, oh yeah, back when, so you don't know this, but when George W. Bush was president, like, of course we know.
No, but Brutus Beefcake had his show, The Barbershop, whatever, and they had the little tiff. Shawn Michaels came out in this leather jacket and everything, and they're sitting there, and this isn't for you. This is for the rest of the fans that have never seen it. And they're doing an interview to him, and Brutus is like, "What's going on? Like, is there turmoil in the Rockers?" And Shawn Michaels gives his Shawn Michaels answer, and him and Marty Jannetty hug, right? They embrace each other, they raise each other's hand. Shawn takes a step back and super kicks him directly through a glass window. And the greatest thing about that was not just the fact that this is a big pivotal point in Shawn's career, because you've never seen Shawn be heel. Shawn was always a perennial face, but it was also great to hear Bobby Heenan go, see, I knew they were going to get back together. One isn't good if he is with the other. One's not good by alone. And then as soon as Shawn kicked him through the face, I knew he was going to do that. I just knew it. Bobby made that segment so much better. So to me, two greatest heel turns, Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, Hulk Hogan, NWO.
I just want to interject real quick and say that, dude, that wasn't even the best Shawn Michaels heel turn. Shawn Michaels' heel run in 2005 is historic. No one will ever convince me otherwise. It is arguably the greatest few months of Shawn Michaels like performance that Shawn Michaels ever had.
You talking about when he was the
dude, I
NWO?
No, I'm talking about 2005. Remember when he turned heel for that Hogan program he did?
Oh, that
at SummerSlam, and he did.
That was kind of ruined, though.
What do you mean? It was kind of no. But it was ruined by the match. Come on, that was okay. The match was not.
Yeah. That was amazing. Like,
come on, dude.
Old school Shawn Michaels,
the Bret Hart thing in Montreal.
Oh, that was so
playing
great.
His music. So great. Oh, amazing.
It was so great. So great.
Justin, I'm sorry. Is this the greatest heel turn ever? Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach 96.
I think there's actually three. Okay, so that Shawn Michaels one, I kind of want to piggyback off of that one. That was a really good one. Like, I really wasn't thinking that one in my mind, but yeah, that's a really good one when he turned on Marty Jannetty.
Yeah.
Another good one is when Stone Cold he turned heel. Yeah, that was like was it May 27? May 17? Yeah,
X7 baby.
X7 baby 2001. That's one of the greatest pay-per-views ever, like in wrestling history. I think there's another one. No, yeah, those are my three. Yeah, those are the three ones. The Hogan, Michaels, and Stone Cold.
I
Yeah.
love how like that last one is like Hulk Hogan's like turned the wrestling business upward, and then Stone Cold turning heel, just like
Right.
like we just woof, and the business went in the complete opposite direction. But
Another moment that kind of made wrestling kind of like feel real, like, was when they did the whole Brian Pillman stuff, because you didn't know if like he was actually a loose cannon or like if he was playing a character and stuff. Like, he really played the biz, like he really knew what he was doing and stuff. Like, if he was still around, I think, man, he'd be up there with Stone Cold and stuff. Like,
smartest man in pro wrestling history, Brian Pillman, playing all sides. But I will say this: there are, as far as heel turns go, there's like no heel turn that I think is more important as far as the wrestling business goes. Like, it's just like, this is it. Like, it changed the business forever, and that's why for me it's the best, right? But if we're talking about like, storyline wise, right? Specifically just the story of what was going on. When you think about it, it was really good, like, because just to see Hogan turn heel, it was like a spectacle. But the story was pretty shit, if we're being honest. Like,
Oh yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it wasn't that great, but like, so for me, for like, I like, that's how I kind of think about it. Like, the moment itself was greatest heel turn ever, but as far as the storyline for me, the best storyline heel turn for me, it's a tie between the Macho Man, Randy Savage, and Hulk Hogan. The Mega Powers exploding,
That's the good one.
because that was built up for a year. That was like one of the best long-term builds in wrestling history, to be honest. So that one and the Andre Hogan. Like, Andre Hogan to me in 1987, what people I don't think understand really what that meant at that time, because Andre was the biggest, most unbeatable monster in pro wrestling. Everyone knew he was never gonna lose, and the fact, and he never wanted the title. He made that abundantly clear for a long time. He never wanted to take the title off of his friend Hulk Hogan. It was a very long build, and then you saw this huge 7-foot giant just explode with rage, rip the cross off of Hulk Hogan, leave him bloody and bleed. It's literally one of Hogan's best coked up promos he's ever done, and it was like one of the, and it was the best, like, Piper's Pit. It was amazing. That in a storyline for me is also like I think the best, because it just like literally anyone who's watching was just so captivated emotionally, because people believed that Hulk Hogan and Andre were really like tight friends, and it just poof. So
Well, you mentioned that one. I mean, so we can get to the next segment. I'll say this. Another one, as far as storyline is concerned, was probably when Shawn Michaels returned and Triple H jumped him in the back, and they had that unsanctioned match at SummerSlam, I believe.
Yes, was it 02? Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now that to me, that as far as storyline, and I mean, Triple H is always a heel pretty much, but as far as storyline and heel turn on his best friend, that was a good one too. I put that one up there as well, because that one was also dragged out for a couple months.
And I started watching wrestling a year later, so I started watching wrestling in 2003. Like, the first match I ever saw was WrestleMania 19. It was Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho. That's the first match. That's the first match I ever saw. Like, because my friend had the WrestleMania 19 on DVD, and I was playing the wrestling video games back in the day, and I go like, oh, like let me check out this show here, and that match has hooked me. Like, I was just like, okay, yeah, I like this. I had to watch every week then.
There you go.
And I've been watching ever since.
Ed Strangler Lewis for turning heel on I'm kidding.
Hate you.
This is gonna be my gimmick. Just get Ed Strangler Lewis like in every episode from here on out. But yeah, no, that was great. Guys, let's get to our fan questions. So this is our fan questions, plural, of the week. We have a few of them, so let's just get started. Trevor, I think the first one is specifically for both of us.
Okay.
And it says, say something positive about WWE. Bet you can't.
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I mean, I want to say this. Let me be clear.
Let me be clear.
We do say positive things about WWE.
Exactly.
It just gets overshadowed by all the negative things we just also happen to say about WWE.
And I think it's more so people involved in WWE than it is actually the whole company.
Look, dude,
it's the creative team. That's what's the problem with WWE.
There you go.
Look,
like,
okay. Sorry,
like who's that woman who just got fired from WWE? What's her
Mobley.
name?
Kenise
Mobley.
Writer,
Like, hey guys, we should just go become writers for WWE at this point. Like,
no, we can't. We're too qualified. We're too
qualified. we know too much stuff about wrestling. Okay,
Exactly.
let's just get brainwashed and know nothing about wrestling, and then we'll get hired.
Look, okay, look, yeah, there's that, but like, Trevor, I think we've said SmackDown is a great show. Literally,
Yes.
we've been saying this for the past like 6 months.
I've
SmackDown is a
said
great show.
NXT was good. I watch NXT regularly.
Roman Reigns is amazing. Who fucking would have thought I said that? Roman Reigns in 2020, 2021 has had what? Other than Kenny Omega, he's probably the best in the world right now.
Right.
Like, as far as his gimmick, as far as his matches, as far as like him as a champion, as a leading champion. Like, what else do these people want? You marks.
No, we're not
going to
kiss We're not going to kiss their ass because their product.
No,
it's
you know what it is? It's these little WWE marks on their keyboard saying AEW baby. AEW only had 600,000 viewers this week up against an NBA game. WWE, meanwhile, with more money, with more infrastructure, with more fans, with more resources, they literally have a fucking like corporation. They're publicly traded company with real sponsors. And guess what?
Like, by the way, they really did have a budget cut. You really need to take that more serious.
Oh no, this was a real thing. These marks, my wonderful fans, my fans who love WWE. I apologize. But these wonderful fans who go out and they say, oh well, they weren't doing anything with these people anyway. That's not the point. Don't lie about why you're cutting these people. Say it's budget cuts and then saying like,
exactly.
And then in the most profitable year of your company. That's bullshit. So yeah, okay. You know what? I think we spent most of that whole question talking about why WWE is bad anyway. So we might be haters. It's very possible. We might be.
No, Roman Reigns is great. SmackDown, I enjoy, and I do enjoy NXT at times. Yes.
And please save Alexa Bliss. Free Alexa Bliss, please.
Jesus.
For God's sake.
Hashtag free Alexa Bliss.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Free Alexa Bliss. Next question. Will the UK ever host a WrestleMania? That's interesting.
It's a good question.
Oh, guys, what do you think about that?
I think they could, with the whole like streaming type. Because I remember it was like back in 2015, maybe they did like a NXT UK takeover.
Yeah, I was about to say that they've done
and they had also, with the whole NXT UK brand over there. They had some like takeover Blackpool, I think, and then they had some more takeovers over there. So I think they actually could eventually in the future here, because like with the whole streaming service, because like. It's not like people are buying pay-per-view buys don't really matter much anymore.
No.
And so it's more about the subscriber count. Like if their subscriber count is going up, like as long as Vince is getting money, who cares if WrestleMania is kind of being held at? And that'd be pretty historic to see, WrestleMania be over there.
So real quick. I just want to say this. I disagree, and I'll get to it later. But Trevor, you go ahead.
I had a question. What pay-per-view was that was in? Wasn't there one in like England?
Insurrection,
Rebellion, Capital Carnage, 98.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I thought they had one.
They have B pay-per-views though. They have C pay-per-views. These were like non-canon wrestling pay-per-views.
That's WrestleMania based, but still, I mean, it could happen. And I mean, they have done an NXT over there, like you said, and other pay-per-views over there, and they've done pretty well. But I mean, it could happen. I don't think it will, but it could happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you guys why it will never happen. This is like a known secret. The reason we haven't seen another wrestling pay-per-view in England, like a major like SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, event in England is because Vince to this day has this belief that he doesn't want to hold one of these pay-per-views on a tape delay. He doesn't want to hold these pay-per-view because he'll do an NXT takeover. He'll do a No Way Out or something like that, right? He'll do that and he'll be perfectly fine doing that. He does not care. What he won't do is do a tape delay or a weird timed WrestleMania in England because the timings just don't work out for the fans who are there. It's like different types of stuff for WrestleMania access. There's permits and stuff you have to get that you don't really need in WWE in the United States rather. So the logistics of it, I don't think will ever work out. If I'm being honest, as long as Vince is in charge, I don't think it'll ever happen because he still has it still to this day has that long held belief. I promise you this: Saudi Arabia will get a WrestleMania before the UK does. That is and it's disappointing. It's so disappointing to think about, but everyone knows it's true because if Saudi Arabia they are willing. They proved they're willing to put up a bunch of money. If they give WWE the same exact gate they would get at WrestleMania without having to do nearly as much as the promotion or the work, Vince is going to take that. He will 100% take that. And they'll do a big Saudi Mania running wild here with King Salman. And they'll do with JBL on commentary, with all of this, and they'll do it. We all know they'll do it. They already did a Royal Rumble there. Might as well. They're
greatest Royal Rumble ever.
That was
is that what they called it?
The greatest Royal Rumble ever. What a creative.
And then they also called. Then they have the Super Showdowns over there. Oh my God, those shows are just Crown Jewel. Oh, don't even get me started with these bad shows. So as disappointing as that is, it's the reality of what WWE is and what they're looking for. They're not necessarily. But sometimes it's kind of funny to go back and kind of watch these Saudi Arabia shows because you go man, this is really bad, corny stuff. This is bad stuff here. It's kind of funny to go back and watch it. To be honest.
I will never watch one of those Saudi shows ever.
Because I went back this year and watched that the biggest Royal Rumble match or whatever. How many guys were in there? 50 guys.
Don't act like you don't know it. It's the greatest Royal Rumble ever. That's literally the name of the show. Oh my God.
Oh man. I went back and watched it, watching Titus O'Neil slipping under the ring. Oh my gosh. What a meme right there. What a meme.
It was so funny.
That meme's gonna outlive Titus O'Neil. I promise you that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, sorry. I don't think it's ever gonna happen. It's just not. I'm sorry. It should. Should because the UK has been long time they have been ignored and they're arguably the most passionate and the most hungry fans for mainstream wrestling and they don't get that. But hopefully,
and also they would come up with some really good chants at WrestleMania, a lot better than what some of these chants that people do in the United States here. I love this one from NXT.
I hate that chant. It's my least favorite chant ever.
No, but I love what they did NXT Takeover. I think it was Cardiff or something like that. Where they took off their shoes for who was it? Oh man, he's down. What's his name right now? Gibson. It was shoes off if you hate Gibson. They come up with some crazy chants and stuff. I love
Bailey. It. Ooh, I want to know.
Oh yes, that's a very classic.
Be my girl. Yes. Yeah, they are great. And they put an effort. Here's the thing. Here in the U.S., we give up on our chants very easily. Yeah, they are I don't do. They are made of something different. The lung power, the lung capacity of these motherfuckers
is amazing.
It is amazing. All right, let's get to our final fan question of the night. This is interesting. Who is someone that should be in the Hall of Fame but isn't? I'm assuming he's talking about the WWE Hall of Fame, not the TNA Hall of Fame. So, guys, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? Who should be in the WWE Hall of Fame but is not?
How about you go first, Justin?
Oh man, there's a name, but I don't know if I want to say the guy's name on Chris Benoit. That's a person who should be in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think he will ever be in the Hall of Fame.
I get why you say it. I do. I get exactly why you say that. He's one. Also another one you can throw in that category is Owen Hart, but Owen Hart did not deserve to be in there because of the way they treated him. Not because of what he did, but Benoit doesn't. I mean, here's the thing: you can't
take away his wrestling ability, but like with how big WWE is and stuff, like they can not afford to put him in there. Despite on the fact on what what he did and stuff, which I just recently went back and watched the Dark Side of the Ring for Chris Benoit, which Dark Side of the Ring is amazing.
Absolutely.
If you guys never checked out Dark Side of the Ring, like definitely check it out. It's great. Like season 3 has been great also.
It's been watching really that. Love it so much. But you've seen the Dark Side of the Ring, right? Mm-hmm. So you saw the Benoit one, and to me, and I've said this quote on here once before. I think the best way to sum that show up was the way Jericho did when he first started. He goes, "If you do not want to hear a murderer celebrated and talked about in a calm manner or whatever, don't watch this," because that's the thing. Like, was he one of the greatest? One of the best technical wrestlers I've seen? Yes, he's one of them. He definitely is, hands down. One of the best technicians I've ever seen in the ring. What he did in the ring for his size, for his stature, was absolutely amazing. His abilities was crazy. His similarities to Dynamite Kid is astonishing. Almost scary, actually. In inside the ring, and outside the ring. But even though you can say is chalk it up to CTE, you can chalk it up to him not being himself. Unfortunately, he did what he did. 3 people are no longer on this earth because of him, and for that, he cannot be in the Hall of Fame.
Right now, if he did that to himself and stuff, I mean, suicide is not.
That's one thing, right?
That's he didn't just. Yeah. Like if he would have, if he wouldn't have killed Nancy and his son.
I want to say, so full disclosure, Chris Benoit up until 2007 was my favorite wrestler. He was like the first. Chris Benoit is the reason that I'm a die-hard wrestling fan. I want to make that very clear. And he's also the reason that wrestling, that WWE, like, people, we cannot understate this, guys. In 2007, when this happened, this was like everything that was ever like said bad about wrestling. Everything was ever, all the tropes about how dangerous and how terrible and how manipulative and just soul crushing the wrestling business was proven right when that Benoit tragedy happened. When he murdered his wife, when he murdered his child in Daniel, that was literally people don't understand how that could have led to the downfall of wrestling, because it was at a time when the business was at a downswing as it was, and it was just the PR, it was a PR nightmare, but it was also like people don't understand how they affected independent wrestling as well. People, like, independent wrestling was getting a lot of flack for it. So it's like this one event legitimately almost brought down like the wrestling business. And it's for that reason that no matter what, whether it's AEW, WWE, TNA, I don't care, at Cauliflower Alley Club, Chris Benoit should never be in the Hall of Fame. And as a former Chris Benoit fan, I'm very clear about, I'm very clear in my thinking about that, because as great as he was, and he in the ring, technically, in my opinion, was the greatest technical wrestler in the history of wrestling. He made everything look like it was hard work. He sold like nobody else. Everything he did was crisp. Even when he botched, it was crisp. But to put Benoit in the Hall of Fame would be, I think, to legitimize the bad parts of the wrestling business that we as wrestling fans, that people as promoters, that the talent are trying to get rid of. The stigma against wrestling, and we can't highlight that stigma. And that's my opinion. He's obviously never going to go in the WWE Hall of Fame. That's a known fact, and that's why I think he shouldn't. Yeah. But going back to the question, and maybe let's put a lighter tone on this, man. Benoit, Virgil. What do we think about that, Virgil? How is Virgil not in the WWE Hall of Fame? I
mean,
Coco Beware is in the Hall of Fame. Tori Wilson, Brutus the fucking Barber Beef.
They didn't give him $20. That's why he's not in the Hall of Fame. If they would have given him $20, he probably would be in the Hall of Fame.
I think I've told this story before. I saw Virgil at
Wait, is Angle in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah,
Yes.
he is.
What year did Angle go into the Hall of Fame?
2018. 2017. Yeah, 33.
Yeah, well, it was
33.
2017. I could have sworn I thought he went in like if Angle wasn't in, I would definitely.
I couldn't remember if the Demolition was in there or not.
They're not. So Demolition should be in there. But in all seriousness, the one person that I for years have been saying should be in, considering what he meant and like really like he accomplished a lot. How is Lex Luger not in the WWE Hall of Fame? Legitimately, how the hell is Lex Luger, Narcissus, the former Narcissus?
You can say something similar about him.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah,
that's kind of why he's not in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, with a lot of people
for Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Virgil Hall of Fame, 2022. Yes.
I mean, not to put a pin in your balloon, but
that pin is well deserved. Yeah,
but my pick is probably William Regal.
Yeah, Lord Stephen Funley. Where's Finley and his Hall of Fame? Hornswoggle.
There you go.
Yes.
Dude, Coco Beware's in it. The three of us could be in the Hall of Fame at this point. Doesn't matter.
AJ Swoggle. They did the whole in Impact recently.
Oh yeah.
I think it was it was in November sometime. I did the whole there's gonna be a phenomenal person like AJ Styles didn't show up, but they did they played AJ Styles' theme in it, and then it was Swoggle came out. Dude, this is so funny.
It's ludicrous to me that X-Pac is a 2-time Hall of Famer. And I'm
not talking about X-Pac anymore. I'm not.
Oh yeah. If you guys want to hear his thoughts on X-Pac, go watch. Go in the archives, check out that video. There's nobody in this world who hates X-Pac more than Trevor. Trevor is the living embodiment of X-Pac heat. He lives, he thrives on his own on giving X-Pac heat. But so I think that those are the fan questions we got this week, boys. Do we have anything else in the world, the wacky, wild world of professional wrestling you guys want to talk about? Any final takes?
No, I think we said it all tonight, man. We said a lot tonight.
We said a lot tonight, yeah. Well,
Justin, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was awesome being on here. Hopefully I can be on, some more future shows here.
Shit. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we can do some of yours as well.
Yeah, man,
exactly.
We got to return the favor. That's how these YouTubers grow. You guys can find Justin from Juggernaut097 on Twitter at the True JSB. Again, on Twitter at the True JSB. You can also find him on YouTube.com/Juggernaut097. Justin, thank you for joining us today. Trevor, the Barman Sutton, as always, thank you for joining me. I am El Jefe of Real Take Unincorporated. We will see you guys same time, same place next week. Real Take Wrestle Talk.
Peace.